Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 68. It's a Friday, not a Wednesday. Welcome to the show. This is a podcast where we talk about pop culture things that interest us, and sometimes there's whiskey or other alcoholic beverages. My name is John, and I am joined once again by Andrea.
Hi, everybody.
And for the video viewers, you can see that Mr. Chris is back as well.
Mr. Chris. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, I get used to calling people Mister sometimes now from Taekwondo. So it's like
sure.
Mr. Luke. Or it's
That's Mr. Stewart for you. Look at the sign, John.
yeah, right.
Hey, no,
Yep.
he better be calling me Mr. Stewart.
Okay, well, all right. Well, your call.
Hey, I've got the sign. I've got the power, man.
All right. Yeah, we've played name roulette on this show before, so do it more people.
That's true. John has introduced me as John, and he's been Andrea for the day. So,
Completely sober, by the way. I just,
Yeah.
I know. It is. My teleprompter was wrong. Who put that in there? Damn
You know
them.
what? At least you had like real names. You didn't try to call me like Adele Dazeem or some other
That's
such.
That's
John will read anything that's on the teleprompter, and I mean anything. Have a good night.
Burgundy over here.
Yeah.
Chris is like, I made a joke. I'm out. Peace. Success.
Well, yeah, it's been a couple weeks now, Chris, since you've been on. So what have you been up to?
Well, raising the future Marvel fanatic, and my family's in town this week, so we're getting a little lots of time outdoors and hanging out with family, and time is flying. It's July is the quick month for teachers, so it's been a fast month.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. You were mentioning that pre-show that Pokemon Fest or something is happening. You updated us on Pogo. Dare I cringe to say it as such. Last time. So what's our new Pokemon update?
Well, if you're gonna walk the walk, you got to talk, John. So now you're part of the clan. Well, this weekend we have Pokemon Go Fest, which for any loyal Pokemon Go player, typically speaking, they bring everybody in. You buy a pass, and you are at least the one in at this time of year typically is typically held in Chicago, and there are often thousands of people occupying hotels and stimulating local businesses and hanging out in the park for the day and getting special events, and it's special events and special spawns, etc. And it's geo locked, so it's only people who are in the park with a pass get those things. But obviously they can't do that for lots of reasons. But last year and this year they have done local Go Fest. So it's a global event starting tomorrow, lasting the whole weekend. And they have some special events going around in about 7 or 8 different international locations, including Chicago. Nothing exclusive if you travel there. But yeah, so for any Pogo player, they are furiously trying to delete Pokemon they no longer need and create space so they can take advantage of some of the excitement. But yeah, it runs from 10 to 6 the next 2 days. So
okay, yeah, I historically just wasted all my Pokecoins on like expanding my Pokemon storage because it was too tough to go through and delete everything. So it's like, oh my god. I mean, half my damn Pokedex is filled with holiday event Pikachus. You know, Jesus.
Like, seriously, it's a problem.
And then there's like male and female ones, and it's just like, oh my god.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's what's kept me interested in the game is that every player gets to play it in the way that they want to. So some players are minimalists. They don't keep one of everything because they don't want it. They just keep one of the evolutions. Some people are really passionate about battling, which is obviously a thing now. And some people are really passionate about shiny Pokemon or event Pokemon or lucky Pokemon or whatever it might be. And I think it's fun that everybody gets to spin the game they want to, the way they want to. So
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm a
I
hoarder, by the way. I have to get one. I have to get the one of everything. Yeah. So
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I got rid of my like first Pokemon. Like that's what I
Mhm.
your
regret. Like
starter,
not thinking
your
about
starter.
the time. Yeah, and just the first because we're gonna be going to the lake in like a week or whatever, and that's when we're like coming. It's always like the anniversary to me. Then it's around the same
Yeah.
time when the game
Right.
came
Yeah.
out because when it
Yep.
first launched, we were up at the lake and running around and just freaking out at
Yep.
every little thing that appeared. And I wish I would have kept
Yeah.
some of those because I have some quite early ones from like
Yeah.
maybe a month after that or something, but not those
Mhm.
initial
We'll
ones.
we'll talk offline. We should do some trades.
Okay.
I Yeah, I deleted my starter too. I was sentimental about it for a while, but it for so many years there was a point where they refused to expand storage and that kind of stuff, and you just didn't have
Yep.
room to
Mhm.
keep junk around, and it kind of varied with you if any of your early ones were any good. So I've been playing since day 4, I think day 3 that it was out, and which has now been 5 years, and um I think my oldest one is only a few years old now, so
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh
I've
man.
crashed a whole
Yeah,
lot.
I got some that would make you jealous, and I suppose I have I think a Hitmonlee that's from like the month after the game started or something.
Nice.
So
Well, there's some nowadays. There's guaranteed luckies if you trade an old Pokemon that's old enough. So again, we'll talk
mm.
about that offline. I'll give you some new, really fancy thing that you want.
Yeah, I don't even have it installed anymore. We haven't played it in quite a while. Like
Sure.
I
we
know.
had
I'm so lucky friends with your wife. It's perturbing.
yeah, we like we had Harry Potter as well
Mhm.
Yep.
then, and so it things started to get like it became too much for us. We
Yeah.
were
Mhm.
like we'd go to town and we'd always have to do a run. And it was
Mhm.
Yep.
fun to do that, but it got to be or we'd be walking somewhere and it was just always on the mind. It was just
Yep.
Yeah.
always there. And then
Yep.
deciding to switch between that and Harry Potter, like kind of doing some
Mhm.
of both, it just was
Yeah.
like it ended up being I don't know what exactly for sure killed it. I think if I would have stuck with it, Ashley probably would have too. But
Yeah.
Sure.
yeah, I don't know.
I played Harry Potter for about, I don't know, 2 weeks and kind of realized the same thing, and stuck with Pogo. Andrea's kind of took the long loop. She kind of let Pogo go for a while and really got into Harry Potter, but she's migrated back now.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the birth of a small one, I really only had time to focus on one. And since
Hmm.
Chris was, so into Pogo, and I'd kept it going um enough. So I just like kind of switched back to focusing on that because for some reason I truly find this baffling. Niantic, who runs both of them, decides to put their events on the same days. So,
Mm,
like, the same day that Harry Potter would be having, like a special wizarding community event or, it was going to be one of their events, it would be a Pokemon event too. So, if you're a player of both of them, that is really, really difficult to,
yep.
get the tasks that you need to get done, the walking that you need to get done, or you get to get opportunities to catch or, for Harry Potter, put images in the registry. It's just so hard to do double duty like that.
Yep.
And I just don't know why you would sort of like shoot yourself in the foot if you want to encourage players of both games to do it, why you would schedule them like that.
Right. Because they're
So
not like really disparate things. I mean,
they're
the
not.
generation is like covers both.
It really
Like there's
does.
a so
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, well,
So
and that wasn't neither one was their first game built on the same technology. There's still a huge Ingress community that
is
mhm.
still
there?
plays using the
Okay.
same, yeah, still plays using the same access points, that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
Right.
I don't know. I wonder if it's just they recognize what all of us kind of did independently is that they probably don't have too many people that can really dedicate themselves to more than one, so
Yeah.
they're going to end up trying anyways.
I guess,
Yep.
but I just don't know why, like, the few people that do play both, you would wanna chase them away by
Yeah,
And you'd think that
even, like, you could just, like, schedule a couple overlapping. I mean, I get it. There's only so many weekends and so many weeks in a year and stuff, and if you wanna get events going, sure, yeah, like, sometimes they're gonna have to overlap, but it was every single time. It was just like,
or just
12
to
events in a
alleviate
row.
server load,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah,
just like
So that
space
you
it
don't
out.
have people from either or both complaining about, like, "Oh, I had all these issues entering a battle," or,
Mhm.
"It ate up my pass," or, whatever, and then you're stuck, doing customer service all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't put it in the news, but there is we might try there's a Witcher one coming.
Oh, really?
Like the
Hmm.
Witcher monster something or another, I forget what it's called. And but yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um and that's coming this month, I think the end of the month. So might try that. I also like I run a we both run VPNs on our phone now and stuff. I don't
Mhm.
I do what I can most of the time, as long as it doesn't include inconveniencing others to not use Google. And
Yeah.
obviously Niantic's uh Ingress started as, I think they were was Niantic even part of Google? I don't remember. But either way, you got to allow the full tracking 100% of the time. If you want to hatch eggs, you're tracked 100% of the time.
Mhm.
And it's not like there's any sort of privacy element there. Is your user account associated with your Google account? Here I
Mhm.
am all the time.
yeah,
And I'd have to turn off my VPN all the time or whatever, probably to play it. And then that's
yeah,
not
yep.
gonna. So I don't know. It's a shame. We definitely had fun times
Yeah.
playing those, and I really liked the battling a lot in Harry Potter. So
Mhm.
yeah, yep. Okay, there, Alan Scott. The company was formed as Niantic Labs in 2010 as an internal startup within Google.
Oh,
So,
cool.
and they found that too. The Witcher Monster Slayer, ARG, they call it. Wow, AR augmented reality game, I guess.
Created
I love
created
that
by Niantic,
tagline.
created by
Sorry.
Niantic, or created by someone else.
Um, it's a good question. Let's find out.
In the meantime, I'm gonna
Um,
read the tagline. It's like Pokemon Go, except everything wants to kill you.
Okay, well they'd be sued if it wasn't Niantic, so I'm guessing I'm guessing it is. I bet it is them.
yeah. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Early access, early registration is opened up for it on Android, so you can jump in
Oh,
here. Official website. Let's see.
only on Android,
Um,
huh?
just the early access.
Man.
No, it's copyrights Spoko SP.
Hmm,
So not Niantic.
interesting.
Man,
So we'll see how that goes. Like if they have a rough launch too, because obviously, Niantic went through it and they've got the infrastructure now and they've kind of got it
I
down. So
I don't know a great deal about The Witcher, but I have a hard time imagining they're gonna have the kind of cult following that Pokemon Go did, like to be able to create a network that large.
I mean, well, when Pokemon Go first came out, that was certainly a cultural, you
Mhm.
know, that was a
Yeah,
movement.
I mean, yeah,
And I
for
don't
sure.
think Witcher will have that. But it was in part because I think, there's definitely obsessive fans for Pokemon and it's seen a resurgence. Like it has very wide appeal.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Witcher is not going to share the same sort of wide appeal. Like I
Yeah.
don't doubt the number of fans is definitely I mean a well-loved game, especially now with the show on Netflix. A whole bunch more people bought the game, a lot more
Mhm.
exposure to it, and they're going to be redoing a lot of it for next
Mhm.
gen. It's going to be on or current gen now, I guess. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think part of what made Pokemon Go successful early on was marketing to families. Like
Sure.
it's something you
Yeah.
can do with kids. Like they can have this cute little account and catch, all the little pocket
Yep.
monsters. Like it was touted as like a fitness thing. Like everybody gets outdoors and goes walking and goes, hunting for
Yep.
these Pokemon. So it really it got like a lot of demographics that like if the Witcher game's tagline is it's like Pokemon Go, but everything tries to kill you. Obviously, they're not going to market it to kids,
Right.
like
Hmm.
little kids. I mean, whereas Pokemon Go could be like, oh, like your 5 and 6-year-old could do this. So
We
Yeah.
know lots of
that's
Right.
that's
families.
like
We know lots
different
of
from the
families where they
start.
have. We have know lots of families where there's like five devices in one car, and they're just like the kids aren't really doing much to help, but they're playing. So
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yep.
170
Well,
million people, 170 million downloads is what Pokemon Go has had since its origins. So
Oof.
okay.
That's
Okay.
impressive.
about 100% of the world population. That's pretty significant.
I
Yeah.
wonder I wonder how much like their monthly active users and how much money they
Mm,
make, you know.
yeah, that'd be
Obviously,
interesting.
it's like I think for me anyway, as a person goes a while playing the game and you're like, okay, this
Hmm.
is great and I'm not spending any money, that's awesome. But eventually like, well, the game is free, and like I want this stuff. So then you put something into it. We had a period of time where it's like, okay, we can each do the $10 a month. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Yeah.
coins you earn
Yep.
or whatever, and then you're $10 a month, and it seemed
That's about what we
fair.
do too.
Hmm.
That's about what we do too. Google tells me it's 1.3 billion this year.
Okay.
Is how much. Is
Oh,
how
Okay.
much they made
Dollars.
on Pokemon. Yeah.
but for
Okay.
the year.
Yeah. For
Okay.
2020.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's a
Nice.
billion dollar business. Like that's not their
Yeah.
only game. It's pretty
Well,
impressive.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of interested to find out if like 2020 was a typical year or not. Like, did people put more money in because people were feeling like stuck in their houses and like they couldn't,
Yeah.
like they couldn't do other stuff, so they like really like focused in and bought extra things, or maybe it's the opposite, or maybe it was a typical year. Like
It
I'm just
was it was a big jump. I'm looking at the charts right now. It was
okay.
about a 30. It was about a 30% increase last year, but it's like point 0.9, like so 900 million a year the last 2 years prior.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
Still, yeah, nothing to
they,
sneeze at, but yeah,
they, did-
clearly
they,
a
did-
big jump.
yeah, they did good about making the game playable during the pandemic though. So
Yeah.
Yep. Well, just while I brought it up and to get out of the way quick, I'll
Oh
say
yeah.
that because it was part of the Witcher Con that was last Friday, a week ago. Um, so if anyone is interested in The Witcher, there's a lot of content to watch there. I stayed away from it, honestly. I don't really want to see the trailer. I'm ready to watch it, ready to go.
Sure.
So I saw these few announcements, here with the more details on the game, and they're doing an animated series and stuff like that. So you guys got to get in The Witcher. Darn it.
Yeah. It's
I
on
mean,
our
even if it's
list.
just the show, because if it's just the show, that like that could draw you into the games too or whatever. But I loved this show a lot. I thought they did a really good job.
It was on our list. And then I was sort of thinking like, oh, I don't know if Chris is really committed to this, and like I'll start it. And he caught me. He caught me starting the first episode, and he came in and he was like, "What is this?" Like, I wanted to watch that. So I had to back out,
Yeah.
and haven't watched without him. So
so
that'll have to
Spike
be
is,
next.
Spike is keeping us from watching.
What'd you say?
So spite is keeping us from watching it.
Well, I
Well,
didn't
you
I didn't
have
want to leave you out, so because you clearly cared and you were mad, so that'll
you
be
have
one
a
of our next
year.
ones.
You got a year till season 2,
Oh
more than a
wow,
year. So, oh
that's
In
a
any
wait,
case,
no, I'm sorry. I read this wrong. Alan posted the release date. It's this year, this December.
okay. I was
That
gonna
was
say, my
so
goodness, that would have been an early trailer drop. I mean,
yeah,
nothing wrong
right.
with getting your audience excited, but dang.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds like
I know.
an August project. We also need to watch Mandalorian. So
Yes.
Well, yeah, I don't know when the next season of that's coming. That's got to be, I'm sure, in the works too. So
Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
you're 2 seasons behind on that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it happens. There's a lot. Well, Andrea, how about
Yeah.
you? I'm sure you're doing Pokemon Go Fest too, but
I
what else has been
am.
happening?
I am indeed. Obviously, we've been watching Loki since we're talking about it tonight. Um, in other like semi Witcher related news, I grabbed Blood of Elves, the book that Witcher is based on. Um,
Yeah.
and I haven't cracked it open yet. I just have it, but it was on my next reading to do list. So
Okay,
I'm
cool.
excited to start that.
Well, that'll be, I mean, I don't know. Witcher is one of those things that seems like, at least from what I've witnessed, the community is not particularly upset about all the deviations. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're separate entities,
Yep.
between the books and the game and the show. It's all like it all feels Witcher, and everybody just likes Witcher in general, and doesn't seem to get too bent out of shape about the differences.
Yeah.
Like they feel segmented to. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing a part of the community that doesn't feel that way, but
That's good. That's because honestly, like it's so hard when you get that feeling either way where, people feel let down by,
Mhm.
film adaptations or um, then you get the other segment of the population who's like introduced via those media and then they like go back and they think like, "Oh, I'll read the books." And then they're like, "Oh, no, it's like everything is so different." So,
Yep.
it's honestly nice to to hear that everybody's like happy with them being their own separate but related things.
Yep. Because it's like the show, I think maybe wisely, I guess, is the show is based on the books,
Mhm.
but it's clearly heavily influenced by the games.
Right.
So it really is a a jumble, a work of the two. So yeah. Um okay, well, you'd let us know what that's like if you start.
Yeah, definitely.
So um I've been watching Rick and Morty still. Caught up on a couple episodes of that. And then I finished Demon Slayer the other week, I watched My Hero. I'm starting back up with My Hero Academia,
Okay.
which is just really good. Like if you
Yes.
as long as you're looking for that kind of show,
Mhm.
um it is so um it's quick pace. There's not these filler episodes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of characters that they give time to. It's very motivational and inspirational. Like
Mhm.
is this is a great like young adult, you know, y- show. It's really really good so far. So,
Yeah. I remember you had when watching it before and recommended it, so I started it and I think I'm only God, I wanna say just like 5 episodes in or something, so, like, super early, but I just remember liking every single one, and it was
mhm.
really fun. Um, yeah, it was another, like, superheroes are mainstream kinda
Yep.
like One Punch Man, but obviously, you know, different premise.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember really liking it, so I should get
Yep.
back into that as well.
Oh, didn't bring this up when talking about a Witcher. I started playing Gwent again. Uh
Okay.
so and then I was playing and Ashley saw me playing and was like, "Oh, that looks fun. I remember that." So she
Yeah.
started playing again on two. So we'll probably try to play a couple games against each other tonight. Um and then this last week I went to Paranormal Convention.
Oh,
So
fun.
yeah, it was in Duluth.
Okay.
So what was
That's
that,
not
Chris?
I said interesting, like supernatural, that type of the Paracon, that the big one.
Like, it's a big one for Minnesota for,
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
but like the paranormal stuff is more like people from ghost shows and stuff.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
like ghost hunters and psychic
Ghost
mediums
facers.
and and all those sorts of things. But there's like, it's not something I've historically into, but it's a really nice community. It's like surprisingly not too large, or they seem very friendly. You can make friends easily if you want. And I did something that you guys would appreciate.
Ooh.
So this was a little different than most years or whatever, where the convention is not in the same, in like the hotel, you know?
Oh.
Mm.
So it's in the convention center in Duluth, and then you have a hotel. Well, we fortunately got the hotel where it seemed like all the celebrities and different people were hanging out. So one night we were at the bar hanging out there and stuff, and it was pretty quiet and whatever. And then I realized right behind me is one of the, like, jukebox things. And so I like downloaded the app to be able to play songs. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, what's this crowd like? I was playing a lot of rock and like angsty stuff and whatever. And then but I also played the Pokemon theme. And
Yes.
I was waiting for responses. I'm like looking around, nothing. Nothing, because I was like, we were at different cons. We were at the anime convention. Everyone would stop what they're doing and start singing, and it's like,
Absolutely.
so and then it was a thing throughout the night that I would just here and there play the Pokemon theme, just waiting to see if someone's like, are they playing the Pokemon theme again? You know, but so
This
yeah,
I want you to know the second you said the Pokemon theme, in my head it went "Dun-dun-dun,"
yeah,
and I just like
yeah,
immediately I want to be the very best. The
yeah.
best that ever
I'm
like
sure.
it happened
Mhm.
immediately.
Yep. So it was fun. It was a fun time. We met some kind of old friends or whatever, played the Pokemon theme too many times. And
Mm.
yeah, it was good. So and we met the people from the show, their Destination Fear. And so because of that, we started watching the show. And that's been a lot of fun.
Cool.
And I got my orange belt in Taekwondo. So I
Nice.
did my
Congratulations.
first test. My first, like, still injured, managed to test thing. So
Nice.
yeah,
Where's orange on the scale? Is it your
it's like
first
the very
belt?
beginning. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, so you start with white, but you don't
Okay.
have to test for white.
You don't
You know, I don't know.
it's like automatic. It's just where you start.
It's like, well, I don't know what is officially the way my master seems to treat it, is that you like once you've proven you're dedicated enough, like you're
Mhm.
gonna be there and you're committed, you buy a uniform and stuff, then you get the belt, the white belt.
Okay.
And then orange is the first one, and it's not, it seems like everybody does it, but it's not an official, like, it doesn't have a meaning. Every other belt color basically has a meaning behind the
Mhm.
color. Orange doesn't. So,
Oh,
but either
interesting.
way, yeah, it was it was fun. It's good. So
Well, congratulations, orange belt.
thanks. Yeah. um. All right. Speaking of orange things, I think there's a drink that's kind of orange-ish, at least in presentation.
I was
Drink
fast. I
holidays.
was I was fascinated what the segue was going to be there. There's so many directions.
John comes up with the good segues, really.
I
Um,
know.
you do. I don't know that I could do that. So, um, but yeah, so we've got 2 drink holidays this week, that happened on Monday and Wednesday. Monday, and I'm gonna say it wrong. I know I am. So, Michelada, like,
How
you know.
I've heard
dare you?
Michelada, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm gonna say Michelada. But yeah, so it is um basically beer in a Bloody Mary. That's the drink. And
Let's
That
not.
sounds,
Let's not.
it
that
right,
sounds like two of the worst things.
it sounds awful. And honestly, I've only ever seen one person drink one. Um, like the morning after like a long night of drinking to, quote unquote, get a little hair of the dog, cure a hangover.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I don't know. I'm sure there's a subsection of people out there who love it. Don't at me or at me. Tell me why it's good. But yes, this is a thing that exists, and on Monday was the day to celebrate it, if you should so choose.
Well, so it's a Mexican drink. So that does that change how you would pronounce the name to you? Still
I
be
don't know.
Michelada, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I guess I don't.
Michelada.
Yeah, I don't have to like pronounce it so like Anglo. Um, which I did. It's a Michelada, y'all.
I
Um,
think you're. I think you're right.
me.
That
Michelada.
the
Yeah.
okay.
Michelada.
Oh,
You get it? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Michelada. All right.
All right. Well, whatever you say, Google.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
For a second,
I
I thought
trust
you like had tried to record me or something. I was like, really? Dang, I'm gonna have to watch what I say. No, okay. So that's good to know that at least I was pronouncing it correctly. But yeah, so that special drink holiday was on Monday, and then Wednesday was Grand Marnier Day. And that is something that Chris and I are celebrating. I found a recipe. We're both really into sangrias right now. So I found a recipe online for a drink for a red wine sangria. So it's got red wine, it's got cognac, Grand Marnier, and then apples, oranges, and strawberries are the fruit. And
Nice.
I believe it is pretty tasty. Chris, thoughts?
it's quite good.
Okay.
I'm running out already. I think so.
we better get to the main topic before while
Do
Chris
it.
is
Yeah.
still coherent. Yeah.
So that was our drink holidays.
Nice.
Are you
Cool.
celebrating along with us, John? Or are you going rogue?
I'm going rogue. More orange things. Two
Okay.
chicks.
Two chicks.
Yeah, I've got two chicks here for video viewers.
Okay.
It's sparkling new old fashioned.
Oh,
So it's kind of
Interesting.
contradictory there. New
yeah.
Wait,
old fashioned.
sparkling new old fashioned. Okay, I want to make sure that you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is it a new old fashioned?
I don't know. Because they changed it up, I guess. I mean, it's got a sparkling element to it. So
Okay.
whiskey, spicy ginger, and orange cocktail.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah,
Did they
product of
muddle- did they muddle-
Canada. What's that?
Did they muddle each can or not so
Yeah,
much?
right. Yeah, probably not. It's very mellow. Like they're tasty. You know, it seems like more of a thing now. It's cocktails in a can.
Mhm.
And yeah, but I like it. It's like I just don't. I know there'll be beer tomorrow at the family reunion. Probably not good
Mhm.
beer either. So I'm just gonna like, wait for that, I guess,
Sure.
and have something else tonight. So yeah. Okay, everyone. We promise we'll be getting to the main topic.
Indeed.
Loki. We'll get there. Before that, just a couple news stories. It kind of covered enough Witcher already. A little bit of going from Eastern Europe culture to just Eastern culture. We've got Skyward Sword, new Zelda game. Well, remastered Zelda game.
Yes.
It is now out today. So if you're a Zelda fan and a Nintendo Switch owner, you should probably pick that up. Seems like a needed item.
Have
I
you already
played quite a
started?
bit of this game. No, I can't play anything with my hand.
Oh, right.
I can
Rude.
play like dating sims or card games, or something like that. But yeah, visual novels or something. But yeah, so I haven't picked it up yet, but I probably will. I played originally on the Wii quite a bit. But yeah, I'd never beat it, so kind of looking forward to getting back into that. But then I have this lingering thing that Ghost of Tsushima like director's cut for PS5 is coming out
Right.
in August.
Right.
And it's like, well, maybe I just want to wait and get into that. So I don't know. Dilemma.
Well, all the more reason to wish you a speedy recovery, and hopefully when you
I
get
know,
it
right?
checked, your hand is doing just fine.
It's doing fine. I re-break it playing some intense video
Right.
games. Yeah. That'd be bad news. And then Full Metal Alchemist.
Mhm.
From one young blonde hero to another.
Mhm.
It's the creator of Full Metal Alchemist, Hiromu Arakawa, is going to be releasing a new manga series finally.
Mhm.
Been quite a while, and we don't know much about it, but basically they've released a kind of teaser artwork poster thing, and I'm excited. I really liked Full Metal Alchemist, so I have high hopes. Have you
Yeah.
guys consumed Full Metal Alchemist at all in any form?
Um
Not me.
as a show, yes. I haven't watched the whole thing through. But I have seen Full Metal Alchemist. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's such like it's one of those like bases and those touchstones, like everybody when
Yeah,
you Full Metal Alchemist, you like know. So I just felt like I needed to see at least some of it. So yeah, it's definitely some big news, even if we don't, have a title or a release date yet. It's definitely like something big and something to look forward to.
right. Yeah. Um, I I never finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,
Mm,
so it's kind of
mm-hmm,
interesting situation. The manga came out, Full Metal Alchemist, and then they adapted it into an anime, Full Metal Alchemist. But the anime deviated heavily from the manga, and
mm-hmm,
but people loved it anyways. And then they went back and made Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is more true to the manga, and people love
mm-hmm.
that too.
Yes.
So I'd like to know where the fan community sits on which is better. But yeah,
Yeah, it'd be
I think
interesting
they're both good.
because I watched Full Metal Alchemist, and Phil, our friend Phil, who's been on the podcast, is watching Brotherhood, because he said like so many people told me, like they both are really great, but if you want to stick to the manga, then like watch Brotherhood and you get like a lot of the same elements, but it's like you said, more true to the original story.
Hmm.
So he decided to watch that. So it'd be interesting to like have us like watch our shows through and then flip flop and see what we end up liking better.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally do a show
Hmm.
about Full Metal Alchemist,
Yeah.
kind of just the whole thing and the differences and some of the stuff up to the release of this.
Yeah.
Because I'm hoping to read this. So, but
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get more details soon on when that will be released.
yeah. And checking out this story, I just saw something as well. We were talking about Pokemon earlier.
Mm.
I don't know this person, but I'm sure plenty of people do. Mabel joins Pokemon 25th anniversary celebration with new single. Does that mean anything to
Mabel.
you?
Nope.
Mabel.
The Pokemon 25th anniversary celebration continues with the latest musical collab for the series international pop star Mabel.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that everyone knows clearly, unveiled her latest track, Take It Home, on Friday with a monster studded music video to boot. So there's a music video featuring Pokemon. So, I mean, it might be worth
All
watching, I
right.
guess,
Oh
to,
my god. It's
Good for
yeah.
Mabel.
It's yeah, the I'm looking at some of the music video right now. It is trippy. She's watching a giant Pikachu and Celebi battle, and Jigglypuff is like the star of her like Pokemon adventure in her music video.
As Jigglypuff always is.
As I mean,
yeah,
obviously
right.
Jigglypuff has to be. If you don't want permanent marker on your face, you better give Jigglypuff his due.
That's a highbrow joke. Not too many people
I
understand
know,
that joke.
I know.
Eyebrow? Okay, yeah.
It's a very niche joke. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
In the original TV series, if Jigglypuff would sing people to sleep and then draw on their faces with Sharpie. I'm not sure if you're an original watcher,
Yes.
John. Maybe we
Oh,
outed
yes.
you as not.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yep.
Well, for the people who are under 30, now you know.
Yeah, right, basically, yeah. Yep. All right. Well, we're getting closer to our main topic of
Mhm.
discussion, because we're
Creeping.
getting into the Marvel sphere. Black Widow finally, after
Mhm.
a long, arduous, like, "Oh, we're gonna release it. Oh, no, we're not. We're gonna release it. No, we're not." Kind of thing. It's finally out now, theaters and available for uh with premiere access from
Mhm.
Disney Plus subscribers. Have either of you watched the film yet?
Not yet, no.
We have not. No, we've talked about if we want that to be our first film we see again in theaters, or if we want to wait for something else, or if we want to just stream it at home, or what. I don't know. Be a sign
Hmm.
of things to come. I'll be interested to see how many people take part in it.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen it yet either. Um, it's I haven't paid too much attention to it, other than like back when it was supposed to come out. Then I was
Right.
excited, and then it just drug on so long that it's kind of gotten. It's kind of like the James Bond movie. Whenever that comes out, it's just like, well, man, it's been so long now. I don't know. But anyways, it looks like it had a good opening weekend.
Mhm.
So
Good.
there's a litany of articles popping up online about the money it's taken in.
Mhm.
Um, so maybe people have not lost interest in the amount of time that
Yeah,
it's taken.
I think it's a combination of um it's a Marvel movie, so there's automatically, I think, an assurance of quality for people. Like, you're going back to the movies to a quality movie, you feel like. And I know, obviously, like, a lot of people don't, try to read like spoiler reviews before they go or anything. Um, but the film has gotten pretty solid reviews. Nothing like raving, but very solid. Like, this is a good movie. Good job, Marvel. Like, way to open back up in the theaters with something solid and long overdue for Black Widow. Um, so yeah, so I think it's good, honestly, like good timing on their part. People are feeling more comfortable going back out, and going to the theaters, and um, they're just like they're ready to see a quality movie. So this was the movie to draw people to the theater if there was going to be one, and it looks like it has, based on the box office.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what it does. I liked the Variety article. If
Mm-hmm.
anyone wants to look it up, it's really kind of trying to discern um, like how successful this is, and how are we going to determine success
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. Because
Yeah.
it was always a thing, like you would see success by a box office number. You get opening weekend numbers, and how many theaters it was opening in, to put that in perspective, and then you'd see whether it has legs and how it's doing in the competition. It's very, like, kind of transparent in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And now when a company owns their own distribution method for everything, they can
Mm-hmm.
choose to reveal or not.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Marvel reveals some numbers for the digital streaming edition of this, so that means they must be confident in it. Do
Yep.
they do that going forward? They kind of show their hand then. So, like, if they don't say something in the following weeks, does that mean that it's dropped off, like they don't like? Or in future movies now, if people are, you've set that expectation, oh, hey, why no numbers now? It did not do well. And
Right.
so that's why
Right.
companies like Microsoft and Apple or whatever, they very often do everything they possibly can to not reveal actual numbers.
Right.
Because then as soon as they don't give you numbers, it's because it's bad.
Yep.
So I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And
interesting times.
I think it'll be interesting to follow, to see if other films do this, if other like film releases do this on other platforms, if they feel the pressure from Disney to like, follow suit. And it'll be interesting to see if, like the metrics that we're measuring by, our Marvel level successes again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so whatever we've recalibrated the new normal to be in this like offering of theater and streaming, is Marvel going to see the same success compared to others? Or is
Yeah.
this just like everybody's excited that it's like the first Marvel movie and then like everything kind of drops off from there? Or are they going to be able to like sustain big numbers moving forward?
It's gonna be so hard to tell because everybody's
Yeah.
gonna it's the same thing where like when they're trying to do someone's trying to figure out video game sales or something like that. They can
Mhm.
only figure out like physical sales of
Mhm.
whatever certain systems and it doesn't count for digital sales and like it's always this it's a guessing game in so many things and the theaters weren't that way. There was a way that no matter what it was Paramount or Universal or whatever you would see what was happening and that was it. And
Mhm.
now, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we're gonna see by what they make sequels to and not.
Mhm.
Maybe that will be our determination.
Right.
Um, Otherwise, yeah, I think it's gonna be weird for that. Because then it gives the companies the ability to really try to spin stuff one way or another.
Mhm.
For a long time, Microsoft they switched their metric that they reported for gaming stuff to like money made to monthly active users
Mhm.
because they can make monthly active users sound better
Right.
than the former metric.
Right.
So, yeah. And what do you guys think about the premier access? So you pay for Disney Plus and then you want a new movie at $30.
I honestly at this point would rather go to the theater than pay unless there's like something blocking us from that experience, like, or maybe we like are hosting like a viewing party, or it's just something like that, where like oh yeah, we have Disney Plus, like, everybody come over one night and we get premiere access for whatever because we all want to. But if it's just like us watching it, honestly, like I'd probably rather go to the theater and spend that $30 on tickets and popcorn and the experience of being in the theater.
Right.
Yeah, that it just seems so egregious to me. I remember talking about this. Actually, one of the podcasts I listened to was talking about this when I think the first film they did this for was
Mulan.
Mulan when it came
Mhm.
out. Yeah, and boy, I mean, the opinion of the people that I was listening to was just like this. I mean, so many people are going to pay it just because they're going to, but like, it just seems so egregious. I
Mhm.
mean, I know that like if you're uh if you're a family with 3 or 4 kids and you're gonna go see Mulan, um, like you're gonna spend 50, 60, $70 at the movie theater because you've got a whole mess of kids and movie theater
Sure.
ticket prices are what they are because they know you're gonna spend more money or as much money on concessions if you have children. But like just for like a couple like Andrea and I, if we were the only ones to go, like boy, I can't envision us spending that much money. And frankly, I like to see movies because of the theater experience. So it just seems
Right.
really out of the out of our ballpark anyway.
Mhm.
Yep. And sure, you got a gaggle of kids, and it's going to be a frustrating situation to go to the
Right.
theater.
Yeah.
Yep. You still are trying to make them happy, and then it's going to be an exciting thing for them. You go and you get your snacks and stuff, and it's an event, and that's cool. I agree. I would go to the theater, spend the excess on whatever else I want. A lot of nice theaters now with nice food and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, or wait for it to be available because I can buy
Mhm.
it for less than $30 and then have it forever, presumably, even if I don't continue the subscription service.
Right.
So,
Well, and it's eventually going to be on Disney Plus.
yeah, right.
Like it'll just be there eventually.
Mhm.
Like you don't know how long you're going to have to wait. Like who knows? Could be because we this is really sort of like an unprecedented, like, you know, release now? Like, is it going to work the same way that like DVDs used to work, where it was like
Hmm.
9 months to a year, or is it going to be like just 6 months, or are they going to try to push it longer? Who knows?
Yep.
But eventually it will be there. So, some people are
Yeah.
going to probably play
I
the
mean,
waiting game.
how do you compare it though to like HBO Max? So HBO Max, they give you day one releases of new movies on
For
the
a certain
service, no
time, yeah.
extra thing. But yeah, then it disappears.
Mhm.
Then it's kind of the other way around. I was gonna watch, well, actually, now we're gonna watch Mortal Kombat. It's like
Right.
kickboxing and taekwondo. It's like let's watch a martial arts movie, and it's not there anymore.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah,
yep,
you get a limited amount of time. I kind of like that actually. I think it creates more of a sense of urgency. You know what I
sure,
mean? Like it gives people like oh, like it's there, but only for a certain amount of time.
yep,
And like an HBO Max subscription, if that's what they're gonna do, is so much more reasonable than like a Premier Access, like $30.
yeah.
And then it just sort of like entices you to keep going because then you could like find all the other things that you really
Mhm,
want to watch. And then you're like, oh, but it's like not that much every month. Whereas like
mhm,
I know it's not that much money truly, but $30 at one time just like seems much more
mhm.
when you think about it in the moment because you're already
Well,
paying the
just when you don't get to
subscription.
own it,
Exactly. You're
that's
you're yeah, and you're already paying like the subscription fee and it just feels like, "Oh my god, it's so much." Whereas like
yep,
the other way around just makes it seem more reasonable.
yep. But I think that Disney would have problems doing that because their content is so
Oh,
closely
I
tied to their
agree.
identity.
I
HBO
agree.
Max can have Mortal Kombat, and nobody
Mhm.
thinks HBO. So you don't,
Right.
Disney has to create their catalog. And
Yes.
it's weird if you go there and something that is theirs isn't on the service.
Yes.
So,
I agree. I
yeah.
agree. Yeah, they're much more of a brand whereas HBO
Hmm.
Max is a service. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. I plan to see it sometime
Mhm.
coming up here, hopefully. And yeah, hopefully it's good. In other Marvel related news, well, Marvel news, um, is Marvel's What If
Yeah.
trailer, huh? So you saw
Mhm.
this. What are
Yes.
you guys thinking?
I am super interested and intrigued by this. I don't know if it's going to break my brain. Um, because so the premise of the show is, what if different scenarios happened in the Marvel universe? If one person or, one event happened just a little bit differently, how would that tweak the Marvel universe as we know it? So, for instance, what if Steve Rogers wasn't Captain America? What if it was Peggy Carter and she was Captain Carter instead of Captain America? How would that like change things in the Marvel universe? Or what if it was T'Challa, you know, Black Panther, who was kidnapped and taken away um, by the Ravagers and became Star-Lord instead of Peter Quill. So different things like this. So it's all characters in the Marvel universe, but it's just like, what if this happened instead? And then it's a bunch of shows exploring all of these different like variant scenarios. Um, which I kind of thought, and I don't think this is gonna like spoil anything too much. Um, but just like sort of like building off of Loki, which is obviously, if you've seen it, about the flow of time and different branches off of different timelines. So I sort of thought Loki was like a good, lead in to introduce the What If series because it is like alternate universes almost.
Sure. What do you
So,
think, Chris?
The thing I don't know. The thing that stuck out to me is that I wonder, and Andrew and I talked about this a little bit, she kind of references that I wonder if this is the connection to the timeline they're exploring now in some of these shows, but um I don't know. I think that every consumer, especially of the Marvel universe, is kind of intrigued by like, I don't understand why this happened. Why didn't they do this? Like, I think that's just an automatic gut reaction for all of these different events. And so I think that like it's going to be popular just because of the fact that like it allows us to explore some of the unique questions. They do this a lot in history as well. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of books of like what if this one major event went differently, and they always tend to be
Right.
popular because it's fun for our imaginations to run wild. I The part of the trailer that stuck out to me was Captain Carter was Peggy receives the serum, and I thought that was a cool storyline. I thought that was something that was kind of interesting. But I wonder how it's going to be structured, if they're going to link multiple different storylines together, or if they're going to each episode is
Mm.
going to be just an alternate, disconnected, unrelated component. I kind of wonder. I just feel like the more you build those alternate storylines together, the harder it will be for a viewer to track. So I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, so what I am confused about with this, or what I think is a mistake in their marketing, I guess, is so like you say, it's coming to like after Loki, which seems to
Mhm.
kind of make sense. But traditionally, a what if is not an exploration of multiple universes. It's literally a thought experiment,
Mhm.
and so even in the description of the trailer here, enter the multiverse of unlimited possibilities. To me, that's confusing. So,
Mhm.
are we exploring multiple universes like that exist, or are we doing the what your title says, a what
What
if?
if? Yep.
Because if it's multiple universes, it's not what if. It's what
It
is,
is. Yep.
just in a
Mhm.
different universe. So I think this is I don't know if anyone else is going to care, but to me this is a major mistake. I think that is really don't try to tie this to Loki. This is a what if thing where it's fun to talk about other things that may have happened and how that would have chain reacted and changed things. Just fun to see superheroes different in new situations without messing with canon or whatever,
Right.
without any infliction upon that.
Right, because
Um,
that's the part that like breaks my brain is like if we are messing with the canon or if we're not. Because if we
yep,
are, then like that's what I'm gonna have a really hard time with.
yep,
Um if we're not, like you said, if it's just like a pure thought experiment, like sure, I'm
yep.
down. That'll be fun.
And that's maybe what it is. Just marketing's mess it up, or they're gonna not consider that people will care that much or something. You know?
Yeah, I wonder sometimes if like, people who are hired for marketing aren't like fans as well. You know what I mean? Like if they've hired somebody for marketing or if there's like somebody new who's there who's like, "Yeah, I'm like really great at marketing, but I'm just, I'm not like a fan."
Right.
So they don't know that like you need to make the distinction because they don't get like what the multiverse is.
Yep.
I know like, something similar like I am a marketing and communications specialist in my own, regular everyday job. And when I was first hired at my job now, I didn't know a whole lot about public health. So I was constantly had to
Mm-hmm.
like run things by other people because like I'd come up with this like
Yeah.
great marketing strategy and then be like, but I don't know about the content, so somebody should double check me on the content. So that could be what
Yep.
happened here too.
Yep. Um, yeah. And you can see through that stuff. Like if
Yep.
you're not, you know, definitely, I know what you mean on Twitter. Some people, it's like whoever's running that, either they really get it, what they're doing, or you can tell they really don't.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
yep. Um, okay. Well, I mean, I'll give it a try, see what else they say about it,
Mhm.
I
I
think it's
Thank you
think
for
fun.
it's
this
I
review.
fun.
think it's fun to be fun. Oh, yeah, I think it's fun to be fun, no matter if it's connects
And it's fun
well.
that everybody who is the character and in live action is voicing This is an animated series, if we haven't said it so far.
A lot of
Um,
them, not all of them.
yeah, one person sounded different to me in the trailer, and I can't remember who it was.
I think Cumberbatch isn't in on this one, and I think one other person isn't as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Um,
tried to do as many as they could, but I can't remember. I read it in an article that there's a couple of voices that weren't in it. So
they did say they did list Chadwick Boseman was going to be T'Challa, which
Mm,
Mhm.
is a bit bittersweet, as this may actual be his kind of final show.
sure, yeah.
Not his physical. I think that was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, was his final like in person movie, but this could be his like final product that's coming out.
Yep. All right. Well, August 11th. Look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
And as for stuff that just concluded, Loki.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get all spoilery about the
Woohoo!
third major Disney Plus Marvel Universe release show, Loki. We can
Mm-hmm.
say Loki season 1,
Yes.
specifically. So, obviously, so
Spoiler.
before we
Spoiler! Spoiler! Spoiler!
yeah, before we did 1 through 3, episodes 1 through 3. We have 4 through 6 now, but also this will be our obviously overall thoughts as well. So Loki, episode 4. Chris, what'd you think?
Yeah, so episode 4, we start off with the temporary, I suppose, salvation of Loki and Sylvie on Lamentus. The door opens up from the TVA, and they get to return. That was the first question I had about the episode. Is so I don't think it ever shows us that Mobius is responsible for this, but I kind of get the sense that he's probably the one that opened up these doors for them so they could return, because he had asked his superior if he would be able to access individuals to gain more information, try to figure out where they might be hiding, etc. And so I'm kind of curious who is responsible for bringing them back, and why, if this was a Nexus event that was going to cause a massive branch, why didn't they just let them die? If they knew that it was they couldn't survive without being saved, that was a question that popped in my head. But yeah, I liked it. I think that I'm trying to come up with a better phrase, but I liked episode 4 probably the best out of the last 3, only because it was the one that I felt like it didn't start to lose the thread. And I don't mean that the story was impossible to follow, but it's just that's I think when in the middle of episode 5, it kind of hit critical mass for me with the number of unanswered questions,
Mm,
and I thought number 4 was the easiest for me to kind of wrap my mind around what was going on and what kind of questions they were trying to answer. And so, yeah, I out of this next set of 3 episodes, I really liked this one a lot. It was fun to see that dynamic. It was fun to see Loki's uh, influence on Mobius, obviously, convincing him that this was just a ploy that they needed to dig in more deeply with. And except for one spoiler out of episode 6, which I'll save till later, it was the moment that gave me the most excitement, watching them kind of
Mm.
turn on the TVA. So
okay. Nice. How about you, Andrea?
Yeah, I really enjoyed episode 4. Um, both moving in a rewind to kind of check out how Sylvie had come to the TVA. It was, I think pretty disturbing, and a really great glimpse into her motivations, because there's something funny, I think, in the first episode where we see Loki get taken by the TVA, and he goes through all of these things, like, they strip him down, they put him in the TVA jumpsuit, they, make him go through all of these things, they make him wait in line to be
Hmm.
judged. Um, he's got to walk through that detector that's like, hey, if you're a robot you might die, like, it's
Yeah.
all kind of like funny and like, like
Right.
what's going on. And then you see like just this tiny young child go through all of that, and it's like suddenly less funny.
Well,
It's
and we still don't have an answer for what she did. To this
no,
to
no, we don't know like her like thing. um
this event.
right. Right. So yeah, so there's just something like less funny about it happening to a child, and you sort of like get like why she's so traumatized and so um needs to bring down the TVA. So I thought it was like a really good episode for, exploring her motivations, exploring why she's so singularly focused. And it really builds, I think, for the audience, um her motivations going into the last two episodes, and why she's sort of like so blinded and so narrowly focused on like figuring all of this out and figuring out how to destroy the TVA. And unfortunately, spoilers, um why she and Loki, our version of Loki, Tom Hiddleston's Loki, um you know turn on each other a little bit because they disagree, because she's so just like, this is my goal, I have to achieve my goal, it's what I've been working for, as we see literally her entire life. So yeah, it's a great setup episode. I agree with Chris, it's definitely the easiest to follow in terms of plot, and in terms of, like, it's more singular in a timeline. It's more linear storytelling, whereas like episodes 5 and 6 are do kind of require you to like take a broader view of things and like sort of like wrap your head around some theories that aren't as easily digestible. Um, so yeah, so I think episode 4 was really well done, and a good kickoff to like, kind of the back half of the season.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and seeing Sylphie go through that, obviously we now have context of what's happening.
Hmm.
When we first see Loki going through the process, we have no idea what's going on.
Right,
And there
right.
is like you say, an element of humor, and who knows, and then we kind of get brought into seriousness when someone gets zapped right away or whatever. But
Hmm.
that takes a moment, and then as we find out more about the TVA, so yeah, when we go back now and see it happen to another person, a child, understanding the what is actually going on now
Hmm.
certainly makes
And
it makes her more understanding.
we also get a sense of how quickly, I think it sets up episode 5 and episode 6 for how quickly the storyline kind of unravels, because Sylvie has been determined to not only dodge the TVA but come to a conclusion of who controls the organization for what, 20 years at least. She's been on the run. If you go from the age of that young kid to the age of Sylvie as she's
No,
portrayed.
much longer,
Yeah.
because with however they age, to my understanding, she said, I was taken and, like, pruned before you were even born to
Yep.
the Loki,
Oh, sure.
so
Sure, okay.
much older.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah,
So,
it's,
yeah.
And remember, as Guardians, well,
True.
and I guess our Loki isn't an Asgardian, but presumably, ages the same way. They talk about like we live 5,000 years in
Or even
Thor.
more significantly, just hundreds of years potentially that she's been trying to figure out, and this all just kind of comes to a head all within a couple of days' time, theoretically, so.
Hmm.
yep. I was happy with episode 4 because it was 3 that when we talked about on the show that I thought
Hmm.
was kind of the weaker episode, where it
Yeah.
seemed, okay, why is Loki being so he seems to not have any plan. He seems to be so reckless with this, and like it just didn't seem they weren't giving him, yes, he is a character, and yes, he makes mistakes, but it didn't seem like they were giving his due credit.
Yep.
Like there were, he wasn't being treated as a um cognizant enough character. And I think
Mhm.
that
Right.
the rest of the series that turned around. So for
I agree.
whatever it was like that was needed as a plot device to get them to where it was like a hopeless state on this planet that's gonna,
Yeah.
whatever. I think that was probably my biggest issues with the show. But and then I like the question you asked there, Chris, because it's like, yeah, why, um, with the why did they not just let them die? Was
Mhm.
it just
Mhm.
too many questions because of like why did this all of a sudden create this major divergence? Like whatever you did, like they noticed it on their screen, and was it just like the curiosity, like what is happening right now? Let's
Mhm.
go pick them up, or was it like no, you need to be brought in front of the timekeepers to answer for your crimes, or was it like their leader there, like not wanting, I don't know, wanting to see Sylvie and be ended herself
Mhm.
because
Yeah, I think that had to have something to do with it, in addition to the fact that maybe it was a curiosity about like what they've learned from this experience. Because and again, this is jumping ahead a little bit. I don't really know what Renslayer is, what her function is precisely. That where her motives fall at this point. Moving in at the end of season one, but I think there
yes,
had to be. I mean, the whole point of Sylvie hiding out in these apocalyptic events is that they never alerted the TVA, and so I wonder if they were even able to figure that out. I don't think we ever will figure out exactly how they located them in that moment. So
well, because they created the event, the Nexus event, so it was going to end. You can't see the stuff that's going to happen because, but this was a change now. This
Yep.
was like all of a sudden timelines diverging or whatever, and so it was enough to show up on the radar.
Well,
Um, yeah,
well,
I don't know.
and don't we get from, and major spoilers now, I'm just gonna go all in for it. He Who Remains says in our later episodes, I've paved the road for you. You just walked
sure.
down it. So don't we get sort of an idea at least that, this is part of a plan? Like there's something here that, them creating the Nexus event and being noticed by the TVA is part of a plan, because they
He's
have to get
yeah,
to this moment where, like, He Who Remains knows and sees all and knows what's going to happen, um right up
and
until,
he's looking for a
episode 6 where he
successor.
doesn't. So
So
yeah, so
I
he at
have
least, so part of this has to be like part of a plan.
I have thoughts and questions. I will save it for a little bit
Sure.
here. We'll
Sure.
get back to that for sure. Um, let's see. So
Let's,
otherwise, in
let's
four, what's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's ask the question that's on everybody's mind. What's alligator Loki or Loki's backstory?
I know, right?
That's
I
the,
mean,
that's the question
that
everybody wants.
That's
I feel
the
like
real
that could be a one
question.
shot comic book. They could do a
Yeah.
release a one shot issue of that. Yeah.
I was honestly like this close to wearing like a green shirt.
Yeah,
And I've got like horn earrings on, and I was like, "Look, I'm a Loki,"
Mm,
because apparently that's all you need. They were like,
yeah.
yeah.
"Well, he's green and he has horns. He's a Loki."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow."
I think we need to be creative. What's your backstory for alligator Loki? Like, how do you think that evolved?
I think actually, so not to take this to like too serious a level, because I think it's just supposed to be funny, like alligator Loki. But I do think it's funny that they didn't choose like one of the traditional shapes that Loki is said to shift into, like in Norse
Mm,
mythology. Like there's wolf Loki, there's horse Loki, there's snake Loki. I think there might be one more animal that he does is purported to have changed into. But yeah, I just think it's funny that they chose like alligator Loki, which is like
yep.
nothing to do with Norse mythology.
Well, Alan shared this. Looks like some fans have already beat us to the punch for
Yeah,
creating alligator Loki's backstory.
Odin
So,
adopted the alligator of mischief.
I did see the frog variant as it was buried in the soil as they went down to the
Yep.
hideout. Yeah, for
Yep.
episode 5.
yeah. 4, I guess, reminded me that I think they still need a better stunt choreographer. Like, I liked the look of everything, but when it came to fights and stuff, I still like it lacked punch to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The one fight I did like was between Loki and Sylvie in the last one.
yes, that was the best one. Yes.
It was the best one.
Yep. Yeah, episode 5. So while we're talking about Gator Loki, um,
Ooh, I don't want to
did
totally leave
you?
episode 4 though, because
Okay,
I definitely have something to say about episode 4.
sure.
Okay. So, first of all, I have to, because this is one of my big complaints with the Thor movies. Um, I have to say I loved seeing Sif, even if it
Mm,
was fake Sif in a time
Yep.
loop that the TVA created. I loved it because I'm still very salty about the treatment of Thor's companions in the Thor movies. Like they were
Hmm.
all there and they were all present in the first one, and it was really fun to see everybody. And then in the second one, we sort of like shifted away and everybody was kind of only there for like a laugh and a joke and like to support like the main plot. And it was really like Thor, Jane, and Loki. So I sort of felt like everybody got the shaft in 2, but then they really, really, really got the shaft in Ragnarok.
They
Like
murdered everyone.
they did. They just like everybody died right away, and Sif wasn't even there. And I
Hmm.
was really pissed about it. And I felt like they just like shunted everybody to the side just so that they could have Valkyrie and Hulk be Thor's new buddies in that movie.
yeah.
And I'm really mad about it. Like I'm not gonna lie.
A 6-year grudge in the Stewart household. It's like,
Seriously, I loved the storylines that were going on with Thor's companions, and like they're such a big part of his mythology, and I just really felt like those characters got the shaft. So I was really excited to see Sif pop up in Loki.
I mean, I agree because like there's definitely, and I've been part of it, like a sheen around um what's his face now? I'm blanking on his name. Ragnarok director.
Oh, Taika
Um,
Waititi.
yeah. Whereas like can do no wrong sort of
Mhm.
thing. But it's a little unfair and it makes me more concerned about his follow-up Thor because I mean, it came out when you had Thor Ragnarok. It it was great because it instilled such a like kind of breath of fresh air from the
I
previous one.
agree.
The previous one that was less well received, and then to move to this, it's like, oh, this feels it's tonally very different, and it just felt fresh and exciting. But I don't know how much Taika Waititi cares about stuff other than making a like fresh, entertaining, kind of goofy show. And so yeah,
Mhm.
that definitely will come at the expense of like um any sort of comic book lore,
Mhm.
sticking to that. And then yeah, these other characters, these companions that yeah, basically after the first one. And I think Thor is a character that needs companions.
Mhm.
Thor is a character that works well when there's a team. It's like
Yes.
one of the heroes that's not all that exciting, honestly. It's the other things around him that make it exciting. He needs to be there. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like it's kind of like Batman. A lot of people, yes, I love Batman, but Batman wouldn't be the caliber he is without his rogues gallery, without
Right.
all the very well known, very different collection of villains that he must face off against. And
Mhm.
Thor is that way too. He needs that. And so having some other heroes at his side to like have some fun with and stuff,
Right.
yeah, it's lacking.
Right. He's social. He's like a social character. And it worked in Thor Ragnarok for him to be like on this planet, and he's like befriending the other like quote unquote gladiators who are being in like these
Yep.
battles and arenas, and it was new and it was funny, like you said, like it's a breath of fresh air. But I don't think you can just lean on that in every movie.
Mhm.
You need the like actual companions of Thor to make it feel meaningful, to make it feel like we've been in battles together. We have this like camaraderie, we have this like, you know, ease between us. We have the chemistry. And that's what I really felt these other characters had, like Sif and Fandral, like they had with Thor, and they brought to the first movie, and then that was missing from the second because they were only on screen for like 2 seconds, and then completely gone from the third, which again I would excuse because like one movie, sure, new characters, fun, fine, but now we're going back to another movie. Thor Love and Thunder is coming out. I don't know that I'm as willing to accept, like, again, if we're having new companions.
Mhm.
I'd rather have it be like more of, the traditional like comic book lore or mythology.
Well, and like you say, they were just like unceremoniously
They were
dispatched, just like
just
gone,
done. Done, yeah.
So, and I know that's to like drill home the threat, you know, of
Right.
Hera,
But
but
it felt a little unceremonious because it was so easy. It was so just
mhm.
like they're gone now. Like one scene and boom, like
Yep.
Volstagg and Fandral and like I said, Sif wasn't even there. She just wasn't even present. Like we don't even
Yep.
know. It wasn't even addressed. So
And
yeah.
lots of other people lived, so like why couldn't have they been and like helping escort people to
Hmm.
safety and like, the
Right.
last line they could have made it longer in the movie. But
Yeah.
anyways,
So
that's a
yeah, so
different
not to
property, but
take
yeah.
yeah, not to take us on too much of a detour, but I really was excited to see Sif, even like I said, if it was just for like this moment, just because I was really excited to like bring that part of the mythology
Yep.
back. I hope that's something moving forward. Um
Yep.
and then obviously I think we need to talk about in episode 4 the fact that, spoiler, Mobius dies or not.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
huge. That was so huge in episode 4
Yeah. That was
that
sad.
yeah, that his quote unquote good buddy, his friend Renslayer just like is like, sorry, but you're going to be deleted
Mhm.
now. Like that was
Yep.
huge. I was so crushed. I was like, Owen Wilson, Mobius.
Yep. I just wrote "son of a bitch" in my
Yeah.
comments. That was what happened there.
I said
So,
I hope he's riding that big jet ski in the sky.
yeah.
I was so obsessed with jet skis.
Had violent flashbacks to Infinity War. when when the every character we care about just like disappears into ash. So
Mm, yep.
Yeah.
Well, I did think then when we got Loki being pruned at the end, I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
either they're making a very big mistake here and they're
Right.
forcing us to shift to a different Loki
Right.
to care about, or he's not dead.
Right.
So,
Right.
Mhm.
But I mean, when Mobius is pruned, like we
right.
definitely felt
At that
like
moment, you're
that was
like, oh,
real.
yep,
So yeah.
you
So
should have known
I
better. Lies and lies.
lies upon lies upon lies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, four really had some big things happening. I mean, Mobius is pruned. We felt that betrayal. Because especially because he felt like Loki was telling him the truth, and he was like,
Yep.
I really want to go back to wherever I came from. Um, and then we had the forcible taking to the timekeepers, who turned out to be androids.
Yep.
Like I thought that they weren't real. I wasn't sure that they were alive, and then it seemed like they were. And then we find out like almost immediately afterwards through this carefully choreographed fight scene, which again was awkward but served its purpose in showing us that the timekeepers were just like robots. Like 4 had a lot going on.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. No, I really liked that set where they had the
Yes.
timekeepers. The
Mhm.
nice imposing thing, keep people at a distance, you know. It really is the Wizard of Oz. Like it's
They, they
definitely
look
the
they
It
look, they look pretty fakey. I was thinking like something's not right about this.
it honestly, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Shazam. Like
Oh,
that
sure.
hall that they come
Yeah.
to at the end, it honestly reminded me of Shazam. Like
Hmm.
It reminded me of the
in a
scene in
good
Star
way.
Wars when they killed Snoke, and you're like, well, that was easy. When Kylo
Mm.
Ren
Oh,
and
yeah. No,
yeah,
yeah, sorry. I'm talking literally just the set reminded
sure,
me of
sure, sure,
Shazam.
sure.
But yes, I agree. Like when they got to the timekeeper and they like cut off its head and it was like, boy, that was easy. Like
Yeah.
Yep. No, I enjoyed the episode a lot. Anything else on 4 before we move on to 5?
um I don't think so. Although I did just sort of like quickly note that, I think another key point for Sylvie's character was brought up in this episode, where they keep talking about how she's lived her life, and we see it in this episode from being a young child,
Mhm.
basically living in the shadow of apocalypses for how many
Right.
hundreds of years, and like what would that do to your psyche? And I think that's a really big point again for Sylvie's character, like growing up in worlds that are about to be ended and like just knowing that you're in some place that's going to be destroyed, and that's all you know. Like you know nothing of stability, you know nothing of permanency. So I think that's a really important point for Sylvie's character, and again speaks to like what her choices are in the next 2 episodes.
Sure. Um, do we buy at all for a second that what's her face was gonna help that Renslayer or whatever was gonna help Sylvie
Mobius
here?
or Sylvie? Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, 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 no,
It's
no, no, no.
like
That
She
was
clearly has a lot of. I don't think that she has any like particular alliances with the higher authority here, but like she clearly has personal motivations that are far more important to her than
she's
any other guy.
confusing to me.
yes,
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
I
agree.
don't understand what's going on there. So hopefully that gets
Again,
explained
I
and
decided.
starts to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't decide if she's trying to escape or if now that she learned that something's fishy, or if she's trying to seize power in some way. I can't decide which is
Yeah,
which.
that's like, do I want to just find whatever is in charge at the top because then I want, I want to be the one that does that, or is it? I don't know. She seems like she wants answers, but then when she gets clearly like, you know, brushed aside when she's asking
Mm.
for answers from their little AI, I
Mhm.
don't know. But I'm very confused. Like,
Yeah.
are the friendships legit or not? Like, she is willing to prune Mobius, but then because it's to protect you are the traitor. We're protecting the sacred timeline here,
Mhm.
and you're the betrayer. But then I'm gonna go find who's in charge or whatever. I'm
Right.
gonna go
Right.
to the top. Like I don't get it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have really great consistency with Renslayer.
Hmm.
And that's
I'm sure
very
there's a reason.
frustrating.
I'm sure there's a reason.
I hope
I'm
so.
I'm I hope so too. I mean, obviously we have now confirmed Loki season 2, so we can explore and hopefully get some sort of answers about this, because yeah, it does seem wildly inconsistent in season 1. Like
Yep.
I want answers, and like, Mobius is like, "Oh, I know you're seeking answers, but you're not going to get them because you only want them. Sylvie needs them." So there's
Mhm.
clearly some sort of like drive to be like, "Well, what is this? What is the TVA?" But what is she going to do with that? Because she's still
Right.
like upholding the TVA even while she wants to
Exactly.
question it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very confusing.
It's gonna find them and be like, "See, I'm your number one. Don't you, give me a promotion or
Look how
something."
smart I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Look how smart I
Um, who's got speakers on?
Yeah. Who did that? I just heard my own echo.
um, so we get to see the the pruning garden or the apocalyptic wasteland with all
Avoid
the
it.
other.
Avoid it. Avoid it.
The
What do
void,
we
purgatory.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do we think of all those? I enjoyed some of the Lokis, I guess. Kind of
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun to see like how many different versions of Loki. I love how they explain that there are so many Lokis in there because Loki's above all else like a survivor. So they
Hmm.
sort of like set up like this, like, this is the reason why there are so many Lokis here because they keep like,
Yeah.
you know,
Warring
dodging.
factions.
Yeah. Yeah, they keep dodging like the ultimate punishment and because they're so good at surviving. So that was kind of fun. Um and then, like the betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal because that's just Loki. It was just like, oh, this makes so much
Yep.
sense. It's great. Um, Although when they did start battling with each other, I did note it's like a bad video game.
It really,
Yeah.
that was a really terrible
It
scene.
And
was
see,
so
again, it's one of those
bad.
things that it sort of demeans the character a little bit.
It
Yeah.
does.
It's some of that stuff like I though I enjoy it and it's over fast enough, it's a little bit like, I mean, you got to balance that your character is uh like basically a god or your character's a joke,
Yeah.
you know. And so it kind of goes back and forth, and then we see in this episode like clearly old man Loki uh is not a joke, you know. His
Right.
outfit's kind of silly, but like these guys
A
have
ton of
abilities and stuff. And
You're
yeah, I don't know.
talking Richard E. Grant's
Yeah.
Loki, classic Loki.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I loved that part of the episode. Um just seeing Richard Grant's Loki, his classic Loki, and getting back to a lot of like Loki's magic in this episode
Hmm.
because I feel like the Tom Hiddleston Loki and not maybe through any choices of his but choices of directors more likely have focused more on like the Loki that does stuff with his daggers and does stuff with swords and weapons and things like that. And early Loki, if you look at like the first Thor movie, even the second Thor movie, is really focused on his magic. And I felt like
Hmm.
we strayed a lot away from that. And I love that this episode kind of like brought us back to like Loki is a powerful magician. Like he can
Yeah.
do some really cool shit. Like let's go back to that. And it's so
Yep.
important because the magic is tied in this version of Loki to his mom and to his bond with Frigga. And she's the one who taught him all of this magic. So it's so important to him. And because his mom is so important to him, and she's like the kind of the only character that he has really cared about for so long. So yeah, let's get to this like prowess with magic.
Yeah. I like the line that they say, I think we're maybe more powerful than we know
Mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Um
And I
other
mentioned
things
that in
I
our previous. Yeah, I mentioned that in our previous episode. Like, was Loki going to learn how to use his power in a different way? And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
while we really didn't see extensively uh, that, like, I think that is something that will come in season two. That he'll begin to exercise his power in some significant way. Although lots of questions to be answered before we know what
Yep.
that's going to look like.
One of my favorite things about the season, other than the philosophical questions, is the relationship between Loki and Sylvie.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvie, and I really connect with their moments together, and like
Mm-hmm.
particularly in episode 5 here when they're having their kind of cute little thing with sharing the blanket and stuff. Like I really like that stuff, and I think that those two work well together. I like the
Mm-hmm.
dynamic between the characters, the sort of like standoffish thing, but like growing to try to trust one another.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one of those things like it's setting you up for, it's setting you up for disappointment. But
Mhm.
it's like I want to see this work. Not only is it so incredibly fitting for Loki to like fall in love with himself,
Totally.
um, but it's just really,
Metaphor.
I think, well done with these two. Like I can
Mhm.
see it in their faces and I buy it.
Mhm.
So I like those moments. Um,
Yeah, I
I
agree. I think it's very well acted between the two of them, and I think it sets us up for, like you said, like just this like ultimate disappointment
mhm,
in the later episode.
yep. I guess my issue with episode 5 it would be that we start getting jumping to like conclude. I guess I understand, but I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna go and try to enchant this creature. How does that guarantee you that you're going to be able to get
Yeah.
anywhere from doing that?
Mhm.
The only thing I
Sure.
can get is that she kind of saw some stuff when it like reached her. So
Mhm.
she
Yeah,
saw
she
a
got she
place
got a
and she
glimpse
kind
of
of,
something.
yep. So I think that's what we're supposed to latch on to is like, okay, we can believe that she's confident what she's saying here
Right.
because she kind of sensed and felt something through that. Because otherwise, it's like, what does this? How do you know this is going to do anything for you?
Right. It's a little quick though. It's a little like jumpy.
Hmm.
You know, it's I wish they would have like done something to show us that that was more logical. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just so brief that it was like,
Yep.
"Okay, I'm taking this on faith here and I believe that this can happen," but it was just like a little like, "Wow, that's really brief to like base this entire plot point on."
Mhm.
Yep. Do you guys think that the other Lokis would all just like, yeah, we'll stay here?
Um kind of, yeah. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
it's unclear to me like what uh they're clearly so petrified of the Alioth creature that they're not
mhm,
even willing to consider the possibility of engaging or interacting with them. So they've basically just been on the run for their entire existence as long as they've been in the void. Um, and like is we don't really see anyone that isn't a Loki outside of the characters we already know, like Mobius.
Yep.
So like, is the void really just a place where it's an automatic death sentence for the vast majority of variants that are pruned? Like the TVA has been pruning people for thousands of years, and the only 20 people that we see are all Lokis. It's kind of strange
yeah.
that he's the only one that's been able to survive um, that entire time period, and that this creature that he who remains has managed to tame or whatever
Mhm.
Yeah.
has only been able to not kill Lokis.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess they sort of, they explain away like we send stuff to the void and whatever happens in the void, we don't really care.
Yeah.
Like that's just it's forgotten about. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, well, they did talk about like I don't know if they were also Lokis, but they did talk about like cannibals and other people, other
Mhm.
people coming. If they see a car, it's usually whatever. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I think the couple Lokis made sense to me, like alligator Loki, like where was he gonna go? What was he gonna do? You know what I mean?
well, does
Like,
he want to live in a pool his whole life,
I mean,
like a kiddie pool?
who knows?
Got to
You
see
know,
the ocean.
he didn't really
He'll
seem
get
to have
bigger
like a whole
eventually.
lot. He didn't seem to have like a whole lot going on, or like a whole lot of ambition other than
He
like,
was the first
I'm not
one
gonna
to
lie.
launch the offensive.
I'm not gonna lie, I love that like Captain hooking of other
Yeah,
Yeah.
Loki's hand. That was hilarious. But he didn't even seem to have a whole lot of ambition going on. So like maybe he's comfortable, maybe he's cool just like drinking boxed wine in his little kiddie pool all day. Um and then like Kid Loki who defeated Thor, like he's the unofficial king. So he was like cool with staying, I think. And then like old Loki, all he was looking for was companionship and he found it. So like those very limited set of characters, yes, I believe that they're like cool with staying. If you expanded it to more Lokis, no, I would not have believed that they all wanted to stay.
It's kind of a weirdly perfect place for Loki to exist. Only himself to conquer and nothing
Mhm.
really to rule. But
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I love the visuals in this again.
Mhm.
I think that this is of all the Marvel shows so far, this is the best shot. This one has the
Yes.
best eye behind the lens in general, and color grading, and just like it just looks good. And so then when the monster's coming for him, and
Yeah.
then the Richard Loki is like building the city,
That was
behind him.
amazing.
that
That
was
was
Really
cool.
so
cool.
cool. Oh, I loved it.
Let's find some wide angles on the actors, says Alan. Yeah, they just there's a better eye behind this show than the other
Yes.
ones. So
Yes. It
um
was this episode in particular was just I mean, they've all been wonderfully shot, but this one really I felt like was just excellence all the way.
some epic moments, and yeah.
I do have to say, like, speaking of the moment where they're facing off against Eliath, um, Loki waving his flaming sword, I
Mhm.
totally had flashbacks,
Oh, me
legit or not,
too.
you tell me,
Jurassic Park.
to
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park!
Yeah, for sure. It had to
Yeah.
be.
It
Yeah.
was totally
No, that
Ian
good.
Malcolm, like, waving the flare. I was just like
Yep.
I don't know if that's very specific and, like, only people of our
Ian, don't
generation,
move.
like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's exactly what I thought of in that moment, and I was just like, "Oh my god, what are you doing, Loki?"
Yep. Yep. Helen says Sam Neill's going to be in Thor: Love and Thunder. Okay, I mean we're getting those connections in here.
Seriously?
It's
That's excellent. I love that because like, wasn't he, Odin in Ragnarok? Wasn't he in that, like, play within the play that, like, in the beginning
Oh,
of
was
Thor
it?
Ragnarok when it's, like, the tragedy of Loki
That's
and
interesting.
fun.
and Matt Damon is playing Loki, and I think Sam Neill was
Oh, that
playing, like,
sounds right.
Odin.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So I wonder
Yes.
if that's
Yes. Alan says yes. I love it. It was so great. I totally
well. Hopefully,
remember
that's not the
Sam
limit of
Neill.
his role in the next one. Maybe it
Yeah,
will just be
hopefully
another
it's
little cameo thing too.
yeah, hopefully it's, more substantial, but I just remember Sam Neill, like, talking about, like, "This little blue baby melted this old man's heart."
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Um, okay. You talked about some of that stuff already. Might as well get to the big stuff, right?
Yeah, let's
Episode
get into
6, the
it.
finale.
The
You know, so they're escaping, and they're like they defeat the enchant, the monster, Elias
Mhm.
there, or Eliath, whatever. And get to this. We're given this kind of crazy warping, sort of going through, hearing voices, going through the
Mhm.
cosmos kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we emerge at some sort of castle,
Mhm.
which looked cool again.
Mhm.
Lonely but cool. So I mean, we have a sassy little clock given our protagonists a choice here.
Ultimatums. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's refused. And we get to meet the one that remains, one who
Mhm.
remains. What do we think of him? What do we think of this finale here? This what's like the answers we got, were they satisfying, and were we given too many questions in return, or whoever
Right.
has the most
Chris, I'm gonna
dominant
put this
thoughts
to
here. Go
you.
for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put
Okay.
this to you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to have read the comics very deeply to understand that this character is clearly uh Kang, who is this multi-universe villain. So like he's clearly going to be the versions of himself are going to be like that's who the statue was at the very end. It has to be. I read that the actor who played was it Jonathan something. He's already been cast as Kang in the next Ant-Man film. So it's obvious who this guy is, that he's Kang the Conqueror. And so um, and we were just dealing with like one version of him. I guess I have a really complex question and a really
Mm,
straightforward question.
sure.
Um, Jonathan Majors, yeah, thank you, Alan. So I guess my really complex question is, how is time really structured here? So like we saw the Citadel at the center of this time circle, and we watched the branches kind of emerge. So exactly how is this kind of this timeline structured? So when they walked to the Citadel, my first thought when I was watching it was, why are all these statues broken? Like
Mm,
why does this castle look like it's in disrepair if it's just this one guy hanging out there? And I didn't understand why it was so dark and dingy, and why and so I think my sense is, I don't know, when they entered the this Citadel, I don't know where on the timeline they are. If he
mm.
already knew that these things were going to happen, but then there was an end point, you would think that the timeline is in a straight line. But like, what other interactions have occurred at the Citadel where there's these broken statues and broken pillars? And I'm just kind of confused exactly what the Citadel represents. So that was my first big question I had when they entered.
Mm.
Well, um, okay, so as opposed to time running in a straight line, as you're saying, it would seem to imply if you're going to the end, what's
Mm,
your
mhm.
alternative? Now, I mean, I understand that the phrase time is cyclical, and he
Yeah.
seems to suggest that.
Mhm.
Um, because we're dealing, I think the complication is we're not just dealing with time and time travel. We're dealing with multiple universes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so if multiple universes can exist and then you can go to any point in time at any universe, I mean, I don't know, it complicates things.
Well, and
Um,
he shows time when he's like
The
explaining
loop.
his past to Sylvie and Loki. He shows it in a loop, and he shows
Mhm.
like these multiple rings on top of each other to like signify like these different universes existing. So I think it's really interesting that, like you said, it's something to work out with time, because they talk about the end of time, this, you know, like Sylvie and Loki are trying to get to the end of time, what's beyond the end of time,
Yeah.
which would like imply that time is linear and a line. But then when they get to the end of time, he who remains shows them, or Kang the Conqueror, however you want to term him, shows them like this time loop, you
Mhm.
know.
well,
And so
because
what?
So
So
even
what?
so what
So
is
what does
time
that
then?
threshold? What does the threshold represent? Because he referenced that like that was the moment they crossed where he doesn't know what happens.
Right,
Like,
right.
what is
So
the
is it in the
threshold?
loop
Is it the
again?
circle? Yeah. Right. Yeah. It was confusing to me. I was trying to visualize it.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it obviously if this is the end of time, end of written time, then or known time, that's only for one universe,
Mhm.
right? So theoretically there's a different occurrence like this or whatever in another multiverse, but that I guess that doesn't make sense then, because this one has to be controlling all the other timelines, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I mean, are we in it? Because are we in a situation where they're managing the timelines of multiple different universes, or are they
Mhm.
literally just pruning out the creation of new universes
Right.
by
Right.
divergence from the timeline?
Right.
With,
Yeah.
I don't know, because that would imply then that you could go to another universe, but it must be that the sacred timeline keeps all of the multiverses
In line.
on track, on their
Yeah.
own track.
Separate. Separate.
But is this then somehow a point that is ruling, like, where is this in time, in space time? You
Right.
know, is this
Mhm.
in its own universe? I mean, eh, or because again, otherwise this would be occurring at the end of time in every
Mhm.
universe.
Right.
And then he would have no authority basically over the all the multiverses, which clearly he and the TVA do.
Right.
So
And
how
I,
does
and
this
I
sit
and I think
outside of time?
yeah, and I think it's clear that there's a TVA in each universe controlled by different groups because, which is another question I have, but I'll double back to that later. When Loki appears at the end of the episode and Mobius and B-15 don't recognize him, clearly that's another universe. So Sylvie has managed to push Loki into another universe.
Mhm.
Um, and so first of all, how did she figure out how to do that? But also, clearly
Or is it intentional?
Right.
yeah, there's
That's what I was
clearly
thinking.
there's clearly a critical mass moment in each of these universes. But is that the threshold in every universe, or is this is there a central timeline? It's hard to understand exactly what they're implying here.
Mhm.
Because yeah, that's a great point, because with a separate TVA in a different universe, how would how would there be any order maintained with it amongst the universes?
Right.
You
Between
know,
them, yeah. So clearly, this one he who remains, clearly he's the most powerful. He beat back his opponents. But like, what does that mean? How does he keep them in line, and what authority does he have over this different universe that has clearly kind
Mhm.
of spelled out differently?
yeah. So like, is he in a timeline that is like desolate and completed, and it's at the end of that, in that universe, that's basically the
Right.
far out point, and then he can create his androids to act as puppet heads
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
all the different universes.
Or
Mhm.
is he a convergence of all three different layers of the different universes, and he is the one at the end? Now that he doesn't exist anymore, there is no central authority. So now it's going to be a fight for a new central authority.
Well, and that just, so that, and the other thing that adds like a unbelievability to this is that um normally when you think of a multiverse, you think of infinite universes. Like that's
Mhm.
Yeah.
the presumption. So it's like, how, well, okay, this must be a finite amount, because
Mhm.
otherwise it would be like completely unmanageable. There has to be a known number of involved universes,
Right.
and then you try to stop new ones from existing, basically, as you diverge on
Mhm.
the things would diverge on the timeline. But that leads me to like, okay, so I can understand how he could know what's going to happen, because essentially, if you're able to travel to these different universes at different points in space time, you can see everything that's going to happen, and you could like
Mhm.
know, because you can go to any point in time. Yeah.
Right.
But how can you observe that? That's what I want to know. Like, I don't see a mystical orb there, magical ball where he's like looking into it and can see everything that is
Mm.
happening, and like
Mm.
rewind and jump between universes to know, like, how does he have, like, yeah, Alan's showing it right now. How does he have the script of
Right.
what's being
It's
said? And like, is that his only way? Like, the
It's so
mechanic
old
of that.
school. It's such like a
Mhm.
weird technology. Like it doesn't seem like a newer technology. You know what I mean? Like it's so like yeah, this is a printout transcript that gets printed out. Like it's not technologically advanced enough for us to believe that like it's a tool that lets him know what's going on in other universes, this universe, like the whole of time up to this
Mhm.
point. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
technology is so
I mean,
backwards.
you couldn't possibly like, oh, I have it right here. What's gonna? It's like
Mhm.
it's literally not possible to store the amount of information that is required to know of what is happening at all points in time and all of existence on paper.
Yes.
You know,
Mhm.
like you need some sort of digital catalog, which maybe exists, and he
Yes.
printed these up for the special occasion. He's like, I gotta go to this other other universe to get toner for my damn printer that doesn't we don't make anymore, and over
God,
here,
the
and like,
cyan on my printer is out
yeah,
again.
yeah.
I think if he can warp himself around the room, I think he can probably fabricate printing ink.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked his I liked the story. I liked the setup. I appreciated the explainer that he gave us, and I was pretty satisfied with how that went down. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm this guy in the 31st century. I discover that there are multiple universes stacked on top of one another. I am
Mhm.
able to figure out a way to traverse between them. At the same time, obviously, in these different universes, me in those universes are also figuring this out. So we're
Mhm.
meeting and discussing, and like it's pretty good for a while. And
Fighting.
eventually, this travel, like, I don't know, opens up or something. And so,
Mhm.
as opposed to a world war, now we have wars between realities.
Right.
And oh my God, isn't this a mess? And I'm going to be the one to end the rest of you and like quell this chaos.
Mhm.
So I like that setup.
So is this ultimately a story about like is season two going to be about the rise of authoritarian, like heavy-handed Iron Fist rule, or what is the next He Who Remains going to look like? Because clearly that's where we're headed. Like this is going to be
Yeah.
a larger battle of Loki in a one universe versus the universe we're familiar with. There's going to be some sort of conflict that occurs now that the higher authority is dead.
But this is so tough because when you do this, all points in time exist all the time.
Mhm.
So like you can have whatever struggle you're having right now with the multiverses and the chaos going on, but you could still always go to the end point and be the same situation. It
Mhm.
still is there in space time in that universe. Like
Yep.
it gets I love time stuff, like Doctor Who, all stuff, but it does
Mhm.
get really messy, especially again when we're not dealing with just time travel. We're dealing with multiple universes. As a whole nother layer of complication. And I mean, do you think they can explain um how this is and how it makes sense in season two? Or are we going to be, is it going to be a, well, you just have to take our word for it?
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
I expect
that's
I expect the latter.
you just have to take our word for it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think they did what they're going to do to really explain what's going on. They might explain how different worlds are different, but I have a hard time imagining that they're going to really invest time in a miniseries trying to explain like because I think I mean again I don't know this from firsthand experience, but I do know that in the comic series like the multiverse is explored significantly, and I just have a
Mhm.
hard time. I have a hard time thinking they're going to spend a lot of time trying to explain it because there's just too many storylines to chase after.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's why, like, you know, it's what was happening with WandaVision, what we expect to happen in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse
Mhm.
of Madness. I think it makes sense because you're gonna have like it's a chaos that's unexplained. Like you can have a thing where you're tearing holes in reality, and like I feel like it doesn't need to be explained if something weird happens. But when you're gonna set the goal for yourself to have an organization that literally controls all of this,
Mhm.
and now you're gonna explore that all of a sudden you've put the burden on yourself to explain it. And that's
Mhm.
really, really tough to do.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. I mean, and it's also uh, it ruins some of the mystery. You know,
Mhm.
if you have a multiversal thing that you can harness because you don't really understand it, that kind of leaves that, it's sort of like, I don't know, if you really did meet God and then know all the answers, it's like, well, I guess that's that.
Right.
That's where it is. There it is. Okay, no more questions.
Right.
And that would be very weird for a person. You get a little bit of that here.
I'm
Yeah.
really curious if Sylvia was able to open up a network through the 10 pad to another multi universe. It's kind of interesting
Yeah,
to see.
I
I
think
mean,
at least that's something they're gonna have to explain in season 2. You know what I
I
mean?
feel like it was yeah,
yeah,
I
I
feel like it was an accident because they were at whatever this converging point
Mhm.
of the
agree. Interesting.
timelines and universes
Sure,
is.
and whatever the explanation is, like, I'm willing to roll with it. I just think it's gonna be something they're at least gonna have to explain because they're gonna have to get Loki back to this other universe that, you know, we're in. Whatever universe it may be, main universe with the sacred timeline, like, one of the other universes, whatever it is. Um they're going to have to get him back there somehow because if they don't, like, we're not invested in the story. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? So they're going to have to explain how to get him back there. So they're going to have to explain that in some sense.
I have to say, I loved this show, but it did. Whereas before, was nothing but excited for like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm
Yeah.
now worried. I'm now concerned about how this is gonna play out and how
Mhm.
it's gonna be explained. And to me, this show question like because earlier the talk was that the shows weren't going to be required viewing, so nothing too dramatic was going to happen in them. This
Right.
one, does it feel like maybe
Just
that's
stumbling
changing?
on another universe. No big deal. Just stumbling on another universe.
Yeah. I mean, it will be kind of disappointing if like season 2 or however many seasons they do of this, it's all sort of buttoned up and then it had no impact. That would be kind of disappointing.
I agree.
Um, but
Well,
you know,
I think the thing that we need to remember is we don't even know what's going on in the timeline that Loki left. Like we're kind of thinking of like the
yeah,
TVA sequence as like on the timeline, but that's kind of like
But is it? Yeah.
yeah, what space precisely is the TVA existing? Because it's not in the real world. And so, like
right.
right now in time, we're still kind of frozen in the Loki steals the cube moment in time. So,
Right.
theoretically, nothing actually will change if everything is resolved by the end of season 2.
But
But then, what's the sequence? Does Loki still die in the MCU? So,
that's what I'm saying. Like we're still tied into canon MCU because everything that He Who Remains offers him is tied to events in our understanding of the MCU. He's like, "Oh, do you want to win New York? Or do you want to win against Thanos? Like, do you not want to die?" Like, everything is still tied to what we know happens in the other Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So it's not totally branched off. So there's some sort of still connection to the events that we understand them as happening in a linear progression in the
sure.
MCU as we've seen it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My only thought is that they could do 5 seasons of Loki, and it could wind up
Sure.
ending, and the cube incident is resolved, and everything just continues on the way that it was.
I agree, but for now, like we at least like understand what universe we're in mainly and what
Yeah.
universe like Loki will be trying to get back to. Cuz obviously him going to a different universe opens up like multiple different possibilities for like what happens to the other, characters in the MCU and to Loki.
I think, maybe, who knows, but I think that he'll get pulled back into the main timeline that we're familiar with
Mhm.
in Doctor Strange, because
Mm.
then if you're only watching the movies, then he dies, and then now we have Doctor Strange and Wanda doing crazy stuff with the multiverse and dimensions and
Mhm.
stuff that he gets popped back through from, doesn't matter where. Now we have
Mhm.
Loki back. And
Sure.
so
And
we'll have
that's what we
known,
have
if
for
you watch
season
the
2.
show, that there's all kinds of stuff going on that he went through, but to the moviegoers, that won't have mattered.
Do we
That would
know
be my guess right now.
do we know if he's in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness?
No, and I would hope they would keep it a secret if
Oh.
Yeah.
he was. But
Mm, I have
Spoiler.
things. I have things.
Spoiler.
I just looked up the cast, so I know some people who are in the cast.
well, in fairness, too, we know that anyone can show up in any of these Marvel movies. It could
And
be
not
like
necessarily be
voiceover.
yeah,
Yeah, it
totally.
could be a thing from the flashback. It could be all kinds of things like that. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who's in it?
um, what's
Do
that?
we do we want a
You gotta hear,
spoiler? Do we
gotta hear
want a spoiler?
spoilers.
No? Chris says, of course. John?
Oh, well, from your reaction, Loki's in the
Yes.
movie, or he's in the cast list, and no
Yes.
more.
Ooh,
Yep.
nice.
Nope.
still
I won't. I mean, I don't know anymore. I just saw like the cast. Also, Bruce Campbell did pop up as in the cast. So
Interesting. Okay,
super excited about
that's
that.
cool. Huh. I mean, I'm okay with them seeing a timeline for a moment, and he's like still fighting zombies with a chainsaw in his hand.
Absolutely.
Like, just
Absolutely.
make
I
it
don't care if it's
happen.
like 5 seconds. Like I'm
Yeah.
cool with it.
Yeah, I don't know. Multiverse stuff is messy, and
Mhm.
often it seems like people do multiverse stories so they can like write characters that aren't they're tired of the character that they have, or the place they have, or the thing that they have. I want it to be different. So let's introduce a multiverse and mess it all up. That's I
Mhm.
now I can have the character be the way I want to write him, or have this piece and that, it's like a grab bag. And it's kind of a convenient thing, but it can get messy, and
Yes.
it can be fun, but it can be abused. So like, I
Yes.
don't know. Ultimately, I really enjoyed the show, but I still, when I'm done with it now,
Mhm.
would rather this have not been a Marvel thing at all.
Mhm.
No, I just still would rather it be its own thing, create your own lore and your own world, and we can really, because then you really do have that freedom. You're not beholden to anything,
Right.
and I think it can be equally as interesting. We have gotten very little like connect through thread to anything else in the Marvel universe.
Mhm.
Like, yes, there's more impact to what's happening to Loki or whatever, because we've experienced, we've gone on a journey with him previously in other movies, but
Mhm.
that's kind of it,
Yeah.
you know? And so, or this show, like, potentially has grand repercussions for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that hopefully is well thought out and considered. Because I just saw a thing now, it just came out. Kevin Feige did an interview. This was, yeah, today. People are writing about it, where they just had a big meeting during an interview with D23 Inside Disney podcast. Feige said the multiverse is coming up in a big way. There's interconnectivity there that people have already started to see and suss out. And I had a meeting this morning with the whole board, or with the whole broad Marvel Studios team, going through the multiverse and the rules of the multiverse and exactly how to really deliver on the excitement surrounding the multiverse. So to me, it seems like this should have happened like 2 years ago. Um, so hopefully if the ducks are in a row, because Spider-Man is happening. That's well underway.
Yep.
Doctor Strange is well underway. And we obviously had this kickoff with things with WandaVision and now this show. So like, I hope they can hold it together.
God, I hope
Is all I'm
so.
saying.
I hope this doesn't turn into like a DC
I know, right?
level
Use the multiverse to
mess.
explain whatever we want, do whatever we want. And if we mess up, we're just gonna like, oh,
Blame the
multiverse it
multiverse.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can't be an excuse for lazy story writing and lazy like plot points. You know what I mean? Like DC has already abused that so much that I get so nervous. Like even knowing the excellence that Marvel has shown us and I know is in like their writing teams, it's still like such a touchy thing for me right now, seeing how the DC universe has messed it all up.
People get cocky, you know,
They
like
do.
they have a decade of like largely honoring source material and creating these movies that were multi-million-dollar projects that like succeeded at the box office like no other. An incredible achievement. You know, there's some hubris now. It's like, you know, we can do anything and we can't fail. Like, you know, and they start
And
getting
you
a little
so
more.
can.
You so can, yes. So I don't want Feige to bite off more than he can chew. I don't, you know, like if he's talking about working on Star Wars projects as well. Like I just, you know, focus and work on the craft and like blueprint a whole, you know, new story arc here and not hopefully not wing it. So,
Right. Oh
um,
boy.
what'd you guys like? I really liked I mean, I wasn't happy that Sylvie and Loki were fighting at the end. But it obviously gave the audience the two philosophical points, sort of. And in fairness, Loki was basically like, let's just talk about this for a second. But basically we had the, well, be damned with it all sort of thing. And so they're not like strictly with the principle only. They also had their own motivations. Loki's
Right.
like, well, I am like falling for you and we need to make this work together. And she's like, my like vendetta, my entire thousands of years of existence has led to this. So like there's those elements as well. But it's also, you know, we get the one who remains explaining like you can take over or it's gonna be chaos. Like, doesn't the safety sound nice? Um, and then we have the fights to determine which one that should be. The chaos, I argue, inherent in life, or the safety provided by an authoritarian.
Yeah, I think this is another moment in this show in which uh, I don't know. I was wrong a little bit the last time when I'm like, why is I think this is in episode 2 or 3 is like, why is Loki just like wasting his time getting hammered on this train with these random random people leading to the apocalypse and I have a hard time believing that there isn't some sort of broader idea concept here. Like I think he recognizes in the moment that Sylvie is not short-sighted, but clearly like motivated on her one goal, which is to like bring an end to the system that put her where she is. And I don't know. I just like I have more confidence in the character of Loki that we're familiar with. That there's some sort of broader plan here. or that one will emerge quickly. I don't know if he has it formulated yet, but I don't know. Maybe I have too much confidence in his
I think
character.
so. Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
I think the time for that, right, was there and past. I think it was
Sure.
again is showing a little bit of a disrespect for the character and like it was used as a vessel to get the plot where they wanted. Not necessarily as designed as really a slight against the character, but that's what it ended up being. Um, how do we take this intelligent, competent, godlike being, incredibly powerful, basically impossible to kill character, and then make it so there's two of them now,
Mhm.
doubly smart, and they get trapped on a place you know, that's gonna everything there is gonna be wiped out, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's a little like yeah, it's
Yeah,
a little
Loki's
hard. It's a bit of
Loki's
a stretch.
the Loki we're familiar with is hopeless. Like every time he crafts the beginning of a plan, it falls apart quickly. So it's just like it's
Yep.
very strange that they're treating the character this way.
Yep. No, I hope there's a kind of a redemption arc almost in season 2 in that way. And I feel like I mean we've gotten genuine change from this Loki that I've appreciated. So
Mhm.
those are the things that I do like, and I hope we don't see that disintegrate. And that will be the weird thing if
Mhm.
we get that where he's pulled back into the mainline Marvel universe and all of a sudden he's different. And
Right.
again, it's one of those things like, okay, are we gonna? I mean, we're gonna fully embrace taking this villain that people are passionate about and make him not a villain anymore. Are we
Mhm.
gonna redeem him and make him now an aspirational character?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know.
Well, they've already done that in if you just watch Marvel movies.
I mean, he's had redemptive moments. I mean, and
The
you can argue he's had his Vader redemption at the end. You
Exactly,
know,
that's the point. I think that's what people remember the most, you know?
Mhm.
Like, now that, like, in Endgame, right? No, in beginning of
No,
Infinity
it's
War.
Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Infinity War. He stood up to Thanos. Like, that was really, like, his defining moment now. Because of
Yep.
the original Avengers is just so long ago. I mean, you get it, like, New York, but it's such like a distant touchstone for people. They sort of remember now more the redemptive arc of Loki, standing by Thor
Yep.
in Ragnarok and standing against Thanos in Infinity War.
I mean, if you're a fan of Loki, do you not go through this series and feel a little bit stung kind of all the way through?
Yeah.
It's sort of
Mhm.
like, okay, so you get in here and you like, you're bombastic and you brag and then you can't do anything about it. And then we show you what happens to you and it's
Mhm.
kind of sad and pathetic and then they talk about the people that I've killed people and whatever and then it's like some of the people that just came back, you didn't accomplish anything. And then
Yeah.
he's again trying to do like kind of lame, half-hearted, I'm fooling you that I'm on your side, or when they're doing a little investigation and he tries to trick him, like she's right outside, whatever he is. And all this stuff, none of it works.
Yep.
He always comes off as looking shallow,
Less than.
pathetic, less than. He gets in a fight, he gets beat up, like
Yeah.
and I don't know that the character deserves it. Um,
Mhm.
and again, it's another this would be better outside of Marvel. If this was not taking a historied Marvel character and telling the story you feel like telling with him,
Mhm.
um, as much as I am enjoying it. So
Yeah, I agree. As someone who's been a fan of Loki from early early on in the MCU, this series makes me frustrated for his character
Mm.
because he does always come off like on the losing end of things. Like he's silly, he's, not that good at lying to people, which is like supposed to be his thing. Like he's always losing these battles. Like In these last 2 episodes, like, everybody is like, "Oh, Sylvie seems more confident than you, like, probably should go with her plan." Like, there's just so much that's like, can we just, like, take a moment and give Loki some credit here? Like, he is a capable being, he doesn't always have to win at stuff, and he doesn't need to be some sort of like brilliant mastermind and like whatever, but he can be capable sometimes. And it sometimes seems like he loses too often.
He's been demoted from villain to comic relief.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To punchline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
that's driven home by seeing all the other Lokis and their like pathetic little battle.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
But then then we see the amazing, awesome moments like where
like
old guy
classic
Grant
Loki.
Loki, yeah, is
Mm-hmm.
so it's unbalanced.
Yes.
It is
Yep.
hard. It is hard for me to segregate though, like where we are in the timeline, in the standard, I guess, sacred timeline. A lot of the character development that we really enjoyed watching happening with Loki happened in the second Thor film and in Avengers and in or
Yeah.
in Ragnarok, and so it was kind of
That's character development though. Like, I'm saying like capabilities. Like,
Competence.
I'm just saying,
Like
yeah.
competency, he's already demonstrated. Like, he was the main villain in Avengers. Like, how
but
does
he
he
never,
like
he
stop?
never accomplished anything outside of like one large battle at the end. Like he was smacked down by Thor um when he was trying to like capture those people and put them under his authority, and he just like the story of Loki in that film wasn't a success story. It was a story of like
Well,
petulance
that's Hulk, who like really threw him down at the end, and that's Captain
and
America. That's Captain America in Germany when he decides to like take down all those people, and he holds his own against Captain America. I mean, I get that like Hulk is a different story. Because there's some like weird, like, you can't really measure Hulk.
Sure.
Like, he can't quite get up to Thanos, but he can get up to like everybody else, and like I'm not sure exactly where he lies in like the power balance of the MCU. But like Loki is demonstrated to be quite capable. And then suddenly, like, in the all the stories following Avengers, he's demonstrated to be less and less and less capable, and I feel like this series is feeding into that narrative in like a not great way.
Yeah,
Which brings us back to John's point, which if this is not going to have an effect on the main timeline of Avengers, like what is all this character development for?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because it will be weird if Loki all of a sudden comes back to the main timeline and he's completely different. But
Mm-hmm.
then this will feel really, really shallow if he is like,
Right.
I've been hurt now too many times, and my Loki counterpart I thought I could trust betrayed me, and so I'm just back to being Loki again. Well,
Right.
then that's really meaningless.
Right. What's the point of that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like if he does pop back into the main timeline, they're gonna pick a moment that makes sense, that he kind of makes like a key decision, whether that is right before he dies or whatnot. Like I feel like they're going to have to pick a moment for him to pop back into whole consistency.
I was gonna say, I feel like they reference that moment a lot, so perhaps that'll be the moment.
Right.
That
And then maybe that's the way that Loki survives.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, I will be disappointed if we don't get the meaningful Loki character development and then it doesn't stick.
Yep, I
Yeah.
I'll
agree.
definitely do. Well, without going into it for spoilers of Game of Thrones, I don't want a Jaime Lannister situation right now.
Agreed so hard.
Oh, that was an unceremonious death for a guy that we invested a lot of emotional energy in.
Yes.
Yep. Apparently
that's
he
the
learned
point.
nothing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I don't think it's too spoilery to say, like, I mean, George R. R. Martin is still working on, the book versions
Yeah.
of events that have happened in the show Game of Thrones, and I really hope he's learned, perhaps from some fan reactions, how not to take that character.
Yeah. Yep. All the things they did is like, oh, I was gonna do that. Oh, they didn't like it. Oh,
Just
I had
kidding.
to
Yeah.
back to the drawing board.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's, I don't want to be one of those people who like advocates for like authors have to listen to fan
No.
reactions and like they're too constrained. But I really do believe in this circumstance that like a lot of people were
But you'd
very
feel it.
disappointed.
You'd feel that as a writer. You'd be like, well, look, I mean, maybe then they have a point here. Like, I need to
Exactly.
reconsider this
It's
because,
not like a small group of like disappointed, like,
yeah,
oh, I wanted it this way. It's like so many people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly can talk about some other things I want, but like for me, last thoughts, anyways, I was thinking
Yeah.
is just the question to you guys: what would you do? Whose side did you take? You're given the offer by the one who remains.
Mm-hmm.
I am tired. I am exhausted from this. What I've
Mm-hmm.
set in place works. It keeps at the expense of many lives. It keeps a peace and it keeps a balance. uh Kill me and take my role, and the whole system is yours to manage and control and to keep back the forces of chaos. Or do you go along the lines of just end them and let it fall? What choice do you guys make?
Mm.
Boy, I mean, I'm not a believer that the answer is a person. I don't have a strong sense that Loki or Sylvie or a combination of them would be able to manage this. I just don't. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm a chaos proponent either. Just like let the branches go where they go. But yeah, I don't know. I think taking his temp pad would be a pretty terrible decision, especially because they're carrying.
I Yeah.
Taking
I
his temp pad?
Yeah, the little wrist thing that he offered. He
Yeah.
offered his little
yeah.
wrist. Yeah.
I I would be at least up for a conversation. I think that our Loki, Tom Hiddleston's Loki, has a point in like let's just like stop and think before we like
Yeah.
kill and let everything go to chaos. Um but in the end I would probably come down on Sylvie's side and say like let it go to chaos. Um just like the TVA is so authoritarian and there's so much like prune first, ask questions later. If there was no way to like revamp that or, cut back on that or something, I don't know. It just seems like the glimpses that we've gotten of the TVA in the second half of Loki are so authoritarian. It's like it's too much for me. Um, but I wouldn't be opposed to like stopping and having a conversation, which I think their fight is weirdly about. Like I get Loki's like, you know, this is a weighty decision. We probably shouldn't make it in 10 seconds. And, just, pointing into the sword goes in the other guy. Like, we should probably think about it.
Yeah. I don't know what like it becomes one of those things you dwell on it too long and you find no new answers, you know.
Maybe, but at least you can like have maybe some peace of mind about like, you know, we at least thought
It
about
was
it.
well considered. Yeah.
You're right. We talked about it and maybe we didn't get anywhere new, but we at least like felt solid in that we heard each other out and thought like,
Mm.
this is our points of view and if we
Well,
still disagree, then obviously something needed to happen, but at least we talked about it.
the
So I guess
oh, go ahead.
yeah. So I guess the question is, did does Sylvie believe he who remains that like chaos is on the way and that there's going to be an epic battle that they have to fight, or does she just not really care and she's just out to wrap up her own storyline? Because I think for season 2, there's some really practical questions of if all these other multi-universes are ready for a fight and now this is their chance and they're mobilizing as we clearly see where Loki lands, like no one in the sacred timeline knows that this is a thing except her, because Loki's no longer there. So, like, how are they going to mobilize a defense? Like, what kind of chaos is going to ensue as a result? Like, so I think it matters if she believes that he's like telling the truth, and that there's going to be just
Right.
this epic fight that's going to come when his other versions arrive. So that's the question that was going through my head when we wrapped up the last episode today.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they're all ready for a fight and they're coming, like, how are they held at bay?
Right.
Clearly, it wasn't the TVA, right? Or was it that literally like the TVA going to previous points in time to stop things before they started?
Right.
But again, when you can time travel, all points in time exist all times. And so, like, I just don't. I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Hard to
I
know.
mean,
Yeah,
to
it's
me,
not a well conceived like technology.
yeah, we're not. Yeah, not conveyed anyways to
Yeah,
us.
right.
You know, I would have to choose Sylvie. I would have to go that route, but then the knowledge you're given or is that we'll just be back here. I'll see you soon, because
Right.
time will end up in the same place anyways. The
Right.
31st
Or did he-
century is happening. He is still being born and it's still happening, and so he'll find a way to connect the multiverses and he'll win the war and the whole thing, and we'll be back to where
Like
we're at.
starts over again. Yep.
Yeah.
Or did he also mean that he meant his other versions, that they'll see his other
Yeah.
versions?
I thought it was a kind of double meaning there. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Any other thoughts on Loki? Closing comments or like overall opinions or something?
My
Um
brain hurts.
um so I don't have any other closing comments, but I'm interested to know, like, for you guys, like, ranking of the Marvel shows so far,
Hmm.
of the
What do you
3
think,
we've
Chris?
gotten.
Well, I can't put this one at the top yet. I've enjoyed it quite a bit, but I just like there's too many unanswered questions and it's really obscure. I really enjoyed um uh the one that followed Vision and sorry, I'm
WandaVision.
forgetting the title. WandaVision, right?
WandaVision, yep.
I really enjoyed that. I really liked the structure. I really enjoyed the backstory of that character. I always had lots of questions about that character in the Marvel movies, and so I wanted to know more about that. I would still keep that one at the top for me. I can't really place Loki above or below um,
Falcon and Winter
the
Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, so just because I just have a hard time knowing where this one was going to go. I will say, I guess, to kind of like offer content that's worth anyone's time. I felt like episode 5 and 6 lowered Loki in my rankings. I will say that.
Okay.
Okay. I think I would put obviously WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier are presumably done.
Right.
Mhm.
And Loki is not. So this is like basically a season versus those series. But
Mhm.
as it currently stands, I would put Loki as number one.
Nice.
Um,
All right.
just for the improvement in visual quality, for the
Mhm.
questions asked, for the debate of between free will
Mhm.
or destiny, for for playing with time that I like, and for the like emotional moments between our Lokis. Um, if yeah, and then I would put second was WandaVision.
Mhm.
It goes in the second because I thought it was a slower start that I was
Mhm.
less interested in, and it kind of ramped up, and then it also let me down with Quicksilver.
Yes.
It dropped some things that like were leading someone leading a person to a conclusion that was the wrong one potentially.
Mhm.
And then Falcon Winter Soldier, I thought fell in so many places. I thought
Mhm.
there we as we talked about, their most interesting characters were not the central characters. They were side characters. Um, I thought they had tonal problems. It had pacing problems.
Mhm.
Felt forced with like trying to get Falcon and Bucky together and like why they were involved and what their place was in the order. Uh, it, it, there wasn't much good other than like there was a we did talk some philosophy that was brought up in there as well. There was a few like kind of fun moments with I forget some of their names now or whatever, but and they try to bring a political relevancy that I didn't need either. So
Mhm.
it's kind of how I'd rate them right now. Keeping it separate from like the greater Marvel universe.
Right,
Like I
Sure.
might
absolutely.
change my ranking if I am considering the impact. Like if I had to consider Loki and what they're doing to the character of Loki, that maybe kind of bothers me, and like maybe that's an
Right.
issue. But as a show itself, kind of deprived of, removed from. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
And I
you?
think
Um,
yeah. Go ahead. Go, Danny.
So yeah, I was just gonna say for me, WandaVision, just because is number one for me, just because I was very excited. I agree, the start was slow, but I felt like once even I got into like the second and third episodes, I was very excited about where the show was going. I thought it was paced well. I never felt things were uneven. I loved the supporting cast.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't feel they overtook the main characters. I felt like Wanda and Vision were always like doing something interesting and important for their character development, and not being buried by the side characters like the way I felt like Falcon and Winter Soldier were. Um, and I was really excited, as long as we're in spoiler land, to see White Vision and to see if there's
Mhm.
anything there that they're gonna do with
yeah.
that. Like it really excited me. Um, I love Paul Bettany and I loved his version of Vision. Glad I could get that out without stumbling. So yeah, so I'm excited to see if that takes us anywhere, Disney, standalone series or in the regular MCU movies. I would definitely rank for me Loki second. I really liked the content of the show. I loved the questions that they asked. I loved the risks that they took playing
Mhm.
with time, playing with multiverse, playing with multiple Lokis and kind of trying to break our brains that way. Um and then yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier is last. I just felt like there was so much promise with that show that it never lived up to. There was an interesting story to tell about how Sam became Captain America, even if I didn't love that he did. I still think you could have told that story in a compelling and interesting way. And there were flashes, there were moments of greatness, and that was it. The show just never lived up to its hype. So
Yeah.
that's my
And,
ranking.
and I think that just for viewers, um I think I think Loki will, no matter where it goes. I don't think it matters what season two brings. I think we're ultimately going to have to ask the kind of one overarching question with Marvel Universe shows, and that's um, there's going to be two different groups of people. Like one group is going to say, well, they they tackled this Herculean task of discussing like multiverse universe. So we need to give them credit for like trying to tackle that. And then the other camp of people are going to say, well, like that's an incredibly difficult thing to kind of portray in a TV series. So you probably should have just left it to the comics where it began. And I think that you're gonna have you're gonna have those two groups like, and I just don't know. I really enjoyed the origins of the TVA and that dynamic. I don't know. I'm struggling. Like I'm a I'm a I'm a pretty dedicated Marvel fan, at least for the last. I mean, not outside of the comics, but I just have a hard time. Boy, if I didn't know anything about Marvel, like Loki wouldn't, so far anyways, be the show that really got me interested because it's confusing. It's genuinely confusing. So I have high hopes for season 2. Um I think it's going to be hard to explain this time aspect better.
Well, to be fair, none of these TV series are entry points. I think, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Sure.
Yeah.
it would be a mistake for
That's
anybody
true.
to try and enter the Marvel universe through any of these TV series.
It is a
For
strength to like that Marvel is willing to make things that don't necessarily have to be fully understood. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
like normally the thought is it needs to be watchable and fully appreciated by a complete newcomer. And
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
Marvel traditionally here has been okay with that. Not necessarily, you still can enjoy it, but there's so much you're not getting if you don't see the
Mhm.
preceding content.
Yes.
And I'm okay
At
with that, I
least
guess.
some of the preceding content. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing to say that you need to see all of it, but you would never watch any of these TV series solo and know anything that was happening.
Yep. I mean, this show, to your point, Chris, is I think probably going to end up in the same trap that is really easy for a writer to do. I do it in D and
Mhm.
D all the time. It's really fun and easy to offer up tantalizing questions
Mm.
before you know the answer, and then having to make that pay off, find that
Mhm.
answer in your process. Yeah, Alan says JJ Abrams. Yep, absolutely.
Mm.
Is
Mhm.
it's jump in, drop a bomb, walk away, let someone else try to explain it.
Right. Right.
It doesn't
It's a huge task. I guess that's ultimately what I'm trying to kind of suggest as my opinion here is that like to make season 2 a success, like you don't
yep,
get any of the intrigue of introducing the TVA and introducing like
right.
how this works and the
Right.
technology and the character.
Yep.
It's like that's all old news. We're all coming into season 2 saying we want some freaking answers. Like
Yep.
what's going on and what's happening and how is there going to be a resolution
Yeah,
and I'm
there's nothing
it's
to say
tough.
that my ranking of Loki wouldn't change if season 2 was just like shit.
Yeah.
We threw a
Yeah.
bomb in season 1 and don't know how to clean it up. Like
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing to say that like I couldn't rank it lower than Falcon and Winter Soldier if season 2 is just like a hot mess.
Time will tell.
Yes,
Time will tell.
indeed. Yeah, we're getting a
All
season
right.
2, so we have to know.
Yeah. Yep. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Popcast on the Rocks, episode 68. Everybody give a big round of applause to Mr. Chris and Mrs. Andrea. um, Thanks for joining me, guys.
You bet.
It was fun, and
Mhm.
we'll see what happens with the next Marvel show.
Mhm.
In the meantime, everybody should follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, here on Twitch if you're watching live. Like it, share it, comment, all that sort of thing. Also, go to your favorite podcast directory. Maybe you don't want to see our faces. That's fine. I understand.
Ouch.
Just listen
Ouch.
to it in audio format. And but make sure if you do that you also like, share, review, subscribe, all that sort of thing. We're on a bunch of the podcast directories, so you can go
Mhm.
and subscribe on all of them. That's fine too. So you should also take a look at the band Killing the Flower. They are responsible for our theme song, and we thank them very much. They can be found on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. So give them a check. So look. I didn't make it this week, but typically I stream with my brother-in-law, Lucas333. That's Lucas with a K on Twitch. That's typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the afternoon. So give him a follow. Even if I'm not there, it's just as entertaining, maybe more so. So go ahead and give him a follow as well. And I think will about do it. Again, this has been Popcast on the Rocks, episode 68, talking about Loki. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Absolutely. Cheers, everybody.
All right.